sophisticated silverbacks, real conversations with real men, and Dave.
Right? Marriage puts extra 10, 15 years on you.
Oh, he hasn't experienced that yet.
Oh, it's coming.
He will soon. I mean, he's going to be a dad soon.
I'm fresh into marriage, so.
Right.
Fresh into marriage, yeah, that's a good time for the first couple years.
Got a few.
You're allowed to have an opinion.
Got a few married veterans here, a newlywed and a single guy.
Mm-hmm. But I was engaged twice, so, you know.
There you go.
Dodge that bullet, huh?
Two times.
All right, so we're live right now, and we have two guests.
Yep, Yuri Zalzman. I've known since the 5th grade.
Is it 5th grade?
5th grade.
We were 13, right? Is that?
No, we were younger than that.
No, it couldn't have been. I got here like 2 months before I turned 13.
All right, 13, and
You figured
I thought
seventh or eighth, right?
Didn't you go to Baldy in 6th? No.
No, I went to Baldy in 8th grade.
Okay.
I did East Seoul from like, yeah.
All right, so
I knew-
so 8th grade.
I knew 7 words when I landed here.
Nice.
So why don't we, we'll do the introductions real quick, kind of get who we are. Dan?
I'm Dan Levit,
Hey, Dan.
Newlywed.
newlywed.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Counterstrike Conditioning client.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And we have Yuri. So, what's a little bit of background? Well, we'll start with Dan. What's a little bit of background on you? What do you do, Dan?
I work in finance. I own real estate. Classic Russian Jewish background. Went to Penn State for 3.5 years. Graduated.
That's right, baby. Penn
Went-
State.
Went straight to work. That's,
Nice.
And trains at Counterstrike Conditioning.
yep.
Gotta throw that in there.
Plug.
What is that?
That is the gym in which we're recording. We do personal training, and we started a nonprofit, Operation Counterstrike, where we train, veterans.
And now
Love it.
first responders and their families.
Yeah.
So.
Very nice.
Hey.
And Yuri, you want to give a little bit of background on yourself?
A little bit. I don't know. I came to the United States at age 13. Met Lee not long after that.
Sorry.
Where'd you come from? Israel. Actually born in Ukraine. Left there at 6 months. I saluted the communists. And I salute
Hey.
them again, and I
Hey.
will continue to salute them.
So we could all kind of be related, distantly related.
Well, I left in my dirty diapers and my salutes. I emigrated to Israel. After Israel, to Vienna, Austria, for a couple of years, where it was very interesting going from the Jewish state to the home city of Schickelgruber, and having to fight because I was Jewish. That was a lot of fun, a couple of times. And then here, with my 7 words of English. And then I met Lee, and by the way, at age 13, I'd say, this bald-headed wonder already had those Kmart weights, like 3 tons of them.
Was
in
he
his-
always bald-headed?
No, are you kidding me? He had more
Dude.
hair than a mop.
Dude, I had a glorious head of hair.
Oh my Lord,
A
yes.
nice man. I like
He
that.
did, he did. He had no forehead.
None.
None.
A glorious head of hair, dude.
Oh, man.
Until you got married,
It's
right?
just unbelievable. Actually, was it after you got married before, right?
No, I shaved it in 93. Yeah, 93 I shaved my rock. Yeah.
I
A few years
shaved-
before I met Andrea.
I shaved my head in 96, right after I got married, and when my wife first saw it, she said, "You're sleeping in the living room tonight."
Did I worked in a steel factory. I woke up one morning. It was a cold, bitter cold winter day. I looked in the mirror, and I had a horseshoe. I had the horseshoe going on. I'm like, 20-something-year-old
You
girl.
mean the cover up?
Yeah,
Oh, no.
20-something-year-old girls don't dig that, So I was ahead of my time. I just shaved the whole thing, and I walked into the factory. And it was like walking into a massive men's locker room. There's like 50 guys there. I walked in the middle of the shop, and I went like that, and 50 guys went nuts. I went, yeah, I'll never have hair again.
That's
Amen.
awesome.
Okay, so why don't we start with the obvious? It's the U.S. Family. What is it? U.S. Family Health Plan. The CEO that got shot, or is that U.S. Family
yeah.
Healthcare?
United Healthcare.
There you go, United
Yeah,
Healthcare.
yeah.
So we start there. That sounds like a good idea. That involves guns and making a hero out of somebody who killed somebody, and
Yeah,
the whole state of the medical
Yeah, I don't like any of that. You don't call somebody a hero who took somebody away from their family. Now we all know that healthcare in America is shit.
Yeah.
We pay for nothing. People will deny you for even though you're paying your premiums. But to sit there and walk up on somebody to kill them, nah, we can do better than that.
I mean, it's weird that they're even females are sexualizing them.
Yes.
And
Yes.
making a hero out of them. And my point, I think I even posted on Facebook, is I don't agree with it. You shouldn't kill somebody. That's
Right.
absolutely. But what's going on in the state of America
Yes.
that this is an acceptable way to deal with things now? And then the fact that even in New York they're hanging up wanted posters for other CEOs.
And Jews.
Well, that's a weird step towards communism. That's
It
what
is.
happened in
Yeah.
Russia
It's-
when they started going after the farmers who were
It's
rich.
the 2024 making of the new Che Guevara. I mean, in the summer you'll see shirts with his likeness, with his piece of shit's likeness on them, and it's very obvious where it's coming from. I mean, look at his educational track. He's programmed to be what his parents and my parents ran away from, communism. And not only that, but he went to top universities, and he was a very good boy. He did all the homework and regurgitated everything that his handlers wanted him to regurgitate. And he's now being hailed by his peers as a magnificent end product that will slay the dragon of capitalism that, not speaking of a catch-22, but enabled all these assholes to live the lives they did and do. What we're seeing in this country, in my opinion, is the purview of decadent country, where, you could take a whole generation, and these kids didn't grow up on their own. Somebody raised them and programmed them. So, if we really want to start the book, we got to go to the preface. We can't start in chapter 3.
Well, this is a lot like what happened in Russia, right, with the farmers. The farmers had the majority of the money, and they went and drugged the farmers out of their homes, killed them, and then there was bread lines. To my understanding, forever. Because they gave the farms back to the people.
No. The Russian peasant was basically a slave.
Okay.
Indentured servitude ran generationally. These people had nothing. They had nothing, and nobody gave a shit about them. And then, so the czarist system was overthrown. That was over 100 years in the making. It wasn't the first attempt at revolution in czarist Russia. I mean, it was 30, 40 years of activity that predated that. But no, the Russians never had shit. They were property of the, what were they called? Their barons. And
The empire. Okay.
no, it was just the old European standard, I mean, and then they had a revolution, and if you were on the side of the whites, like many of my family, you ran away to Shanghai and points east, and if you were a red, well, you stuck around, and if you really want to see what life in Soviet Russia was like, there was a movie about East Germany and the Stasi, where if you were to sit to dinner, let's say we're a family, there's dad, mom, cousin, whatever, you didn't know who amongst your family was spying on the family. It was almost like 2/3 of the country were spies that were paid by the government to spy on the other spies to see what everyone was saying. So no, those people had nothing, they expected nothing, and if you look at Russia today, they still like a strong man in leadership. There's no democratic system there.
It's a little bit different of a cultural background, and I do want to point out that in Tsarist Russia there was, I'm not saying they were technologically advanced by any means, but before communism came in, there were multiple factories producing cars. They were moving forward. Communism obviously dragged that down by quite amount of time.
The opposite. Because as soon as communism came to play, the communists, look, why did the communists have followers throughout the world? Spain, France, Germany.
China.
Not yet.
At that time,
China
was-
afterward.
yeah.
China was more
dynasty.
philosophical, but there was real huge movements of communism throughout Europe. And why? Well, if you looked at the Western powers, there was a stock crash, and Americans weren't going to France anymore, and they weren't paying a lot for locally made champagne and meals. Everything was crashing. The only place that was thriving was Soviet Russia. That a 5-year plan, labor was cheap, right? You always need cheap labor. You can't start shit if you don't have people that you can build upon their skeletons.
True.
China, everybody. I mean, if you think about it. So no, communists were kicking ass. That's why there was so much fervor for communism. And when the German soldier went to war against Germany, against Soviet Russia, in June of '41, he was going to fight the Bolsheviks. He was saving the West from the evils of communism. And if you kind of look at it after '45, after the end of the war, what happened? Well, everybody lined up to fight what? Communism. And so communism has been prevalent in the United States since basically the start of FDR's first term, because it was so popular amongst the intellectuals, because it was successful, it was idyllic. Everybody was what? DEI. It was the original fucking DEI. Everybody's equal, except for those who are in power. They're slightly more equal than you. Now shut the fuck up or you'll get a bullet in your head. See what I'm saying? So no, ideologically it was superior and they were succeeding, because if you look at Soviet Russia, from like 1927 to 1932, they sprang forward 150 years.
I was referring to a little bit before that, like the 1906 to the 1915 era, where it was starting.
Oh,
to
when
grow.
the Tsar was still
Yeah.
in power.
When the Tsar was still in power, I'm not saying everything in Russia was beautiful, but more or less,
The women are.
more or less, the economy was wrong.
That's why they killed Patton, because Patton wanted to Patton wanted to take the German army and fight Russia.
Of course. And
Yep.
that's what we ended up doing anyway, but
Yep.
in a less overt way. We just did it in Southeast Asia and in Africa and in the Middle East. So
You drop an A-bomb on a major city, people in power get nervous, and then the chessboard becomes a different, less of a lost type area to fight in. These areas are
Yeah.
desert and jungle and
you
have
shift
nothing.
it.
Yeah.
You shift the chessboard because there's a lot of money to be made in war. And, the Rockefellers, for instance, amongst other families, figured that out in World War I.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, everybody talks about the kinetic war and the deaths and all the terrible things, but does anybody ever ask who funded Hitler? Germany was broke. Where
Yeah.
was the money coming from? Okay. Well, that's a different conversation. Because if there was no money to be made, and today we're not fighting like wars where you get your boys together, we'll get our slingshots or our arrows and, go and kill some dudes, right? No, actually in those societies, warfare is not designed to kill.
Right.
If you kill somebody in somebody else's tribe, you have to pay reparations.
Right. I like that word.
Right?
I like that word.
Yeah. But they're based on you took somebody's father or son or something, so there's blood on your hands, you got to pay back somehow. And they know better than the Italians that vendettas don't work, right? Because they last too long, and nobody can live peacefully. So here are a few pigs, here is my daughter, shake, we go home. But anyway, there's too much money to be made in Western warfare because we are industrialized warfare. I mean, the first real industrial war, like modern war, is like our Civil War in the 1860s. Because even already then, a commander, let's say you're the commander of the Northern Army, and I'm some lieutenant, and I see some movement down in Virginia, like 200 miles away. Well, guess what? I send a dispatcher to the nearest railhead, and they telegraph the shit to you, and you have real intelligence within 5 minutes.
You're talking about the Revolutionary War.
No.
You're talking about
Civil
Russia.
War.
Civil War.
War here.
Yeah.
Okay.
1861 through 65.
Gotcha.
So then, everybody realized, holy shit, like gunpowder costs money, cannons are expensive, cannonballs, timed fuses, repeater rifles,
Right.
you name it, they already had it. Medicine wasn't so good yet, but, they did their best. And then, you see what you see today, actually, like with modern orthopedic, what do you call them? Help me out here.
Surgery?
No, the
Medical?
orthopedic, like if somebody loses an arm and all.
Amputation.
For amputees. So after World War I, you have like this huge
Prosthetics.
growth in prosthetics. Thank you. And after World War I and after World War II.
After World War, and then you had
And today,
you had advances in
Undertakers.
disease from those wars too. Hepatitis
Yes.
C was
Yes.
born out of World War II.
Even bombing became a thing because people wanted to see their family, and you couldn't drag them all the way through the South
No.
dead. without embalming them.
Yeah.
So they learned how to embalm so that could happen. There was a lot more subterfuge. There's a lot more spy games then. A little bit, I mean, more of the modern type era.
But all this brought us to Luigi.
Yeah.
Somehow all of this brought us to
all of this-
Luigi.
well, Luigi's path really started in World War One, when our Woodrow Wilson kind of fucked up. He was the first Harvard boy. He was the first non-achiever to actually be a president. Non-achiever is, in my book, is somebody who went to school and got good grades. So, congratulations, you just spent whatever. Let's say I'm not knocking education. Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of it, so I can speak on it. I can say, unless you actually do something else with your life, as a strict academician, those are your only qualifications. It doesn't mean because you took exams and you got A's on them that you're actually capable of doing the job.
Yeah.
True.
Or
That is very
applying
true.
the science
So
behind it.
Yes.
For those that don't know that are sitting here, Yuri has a degree in law.
Okay.
You may call me doctor.
All right. So it's, I
Esquire.
mean,
Please
for,
don't
for
call
those
me
who don't know,
doctor.
I mean, just to put it in context, I mean, because
Okay.
he's talking about education and
Well,
higher education.
Even going back to funding, I mean, the military-industrial complex,
Yeah.
Yes.
they just recently found that in Korea, North Korea, Russia, and all that, our components are in the weaponry.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how did they get it? That means they gave it to them. They're business people. They don't really care. Like, I mean, you're going to sell.
Well, I mean,
people- they're not going to sell you the whole piece because that's illegal.
Follow the money.
Yeah.
Go to
Always
Switzerland and follow the fucking money.
Always follow the
and,
money.
And
Yep.
Switzerland in World War II, you would have an American businessman, no offense, a Nazi businessman, and I mean, Ford was building trucks in Germany.
Yeah.
and the factory, I don't know. I mean, it wasn't bombed. I'm not saying they missed, but the factory wasn't bombed either. Oh, and another fun fact. Henry Ford sued the U.S. government for damages to those factories that were hit while Germany was being bombed by the U.S., and he won. Because he owned those fucking factories that were making trucks for the Germans at the same time that he was making Jeeps for the U.S. military. So it's a great business.
Somebody doesn't drop it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking right now. Yeah, and I mean,
It's a drone.
It's a Japanese guy.
it gets really fascinating real quick after World War One, and then you talk about the
Yes.
the science race afterwards, and capturing Nazis, scientists, and Van Buren. I think it was Van Buren at NASA was an SS general.
Von Braun.
Yeah, was an SS general. He got us to the moon.
Well, I
We-
mean,
we wiped that past away. He's on Disney. He's talking with Walt Disney about how great it'll be to get in outer space and the moon.
yeah, we wiped away the fact that he employed thousands and tens of thousands of slave labor.
Yeah.
We looked the other way. But look, there was a unit in the Japanese army, can't remember the number of it, but they did human experiments. So they would fucking operate on a live human being. They tie down some Chinese dude, peel his skin back, drip all sorts of chemicals and see what the reaction is. We captured those documents. We have them. We're not sharing them, but we have them. And do you think we didn't study them and didn't? Of course we did.
Well, look at the psychological experiments that Nazis were doing.
Yeah. Well,
Like, like just violating all kinds of,
Geneva
laws in
Convention.
place. Well, even more than that, like just the patient protections that they have now, a lot of them were established because of everything that was going on in World War II.
Oh, yeah.
Because they just did what they did with
well,
no.
eugenics.
Yeah.
It was the age of eugenics.
Oh yeah.
what's
Margaret
her-
Sanger and all that good
Yes,
stuff.
she's a big proponent, and so now all the modern, and I do separate modern feminists from the original feminists of
Oh,
the
yes.
early 20th. Modern feminists are all looking at Margaret Sanger like she's a goddess.
And she is not.
She's responsible for, I think it was, the number I heard was like 360,000 abortions by black girls alone every year.
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's-
She's the one that she made Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
The Eugenic Society of America is now Planned Parenthood. That's exactly what it is.
Let's zoom in on this Luigi situation, though.
Yeah,
yeah,
thank
yeah,
you for
let's-
zooming us.
Well,
Yeah, yeah, we could be here all
this
day
is what
talking
we
about
normally
World
do.
War
Is
II.
we spin off.
Yeah.
The other I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
the fascinating thing is because of what he stands for, you realize it's not the bad, evil guns that it normally would be if somebody went and shot somebody.
Look, I'm absolutely blown away when they say that he printed this weapon. Like when I think of
Oh, yeah.
like when I have no knowledge of a 3D printer, Like I think of a printer printing out a piece of paper
Yeah.
with instructions on
And
maybe
it's
how
ready to go.
yeah, like on how to build the gun.
Yeah,
Like
these things are cool. I've seen
I
them.
don't picture it like spitting out a weapon for me to use.
Well, it's not-
I'm blown away by that.
It's not like that exactly. I mean, it's
The components, right?
so we're talking about the lower receiver, the plastic part. I mean, they can print metal now because there's a suppressor made of Inconel 625, which is an alloy used in the hottest part of a jet engine, and you can print a suppressor using Inconel 625.
So what? You just pour the material in?
No, the material it melts it as it goes. It's
It's
like,
like
a
a
TIG
little-
welder, like a
Yeah.
TIG welder, but it goes in its own path.
I'm blown away by
It's
this.
un-
I'll take you to the Franklin Institute. They have
Yeah.
one.
This is
No,
like,
take him to the
I
police
just can't wrap my head around. I can't wrap my head around
Yeah, the
this.
Franklin does have that on display.
This is
They had a 3D
insane.
printed Harley, is it?
Yeah.
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 This is insane.
The
It
guy
is.
just goes in, hits different things and programs
Yeah.
it, walks away, and it just starts building stuff.
Yeah.
At
So
the
now
Franklin Institute.
old cars that you couldn't restore because you can't get the little like dinghies.
Right. You can do
Just
that now.
Take a you put it in a little cell. A laser like looks at it, measures it, and then
It starts cutting.
it's really amazing shit.
Like I was saying,
insane.
it's
Yeah, you
usually
can get one of these things put in your basement.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
You can buy them now. It's
What's it?
crazy.
What are you gonna print? Like a special,
Weights.
But bringing it back to Luigi, he's being like sexualized. He's being touted as a hero.
Yeah,
he's
almost like a
being-
Robin Hood.
Yeah, like a rock star now.
Yeah.
And now I heard he's getting money. He's getting.
But like
Yeah,
I
they're
said,
gonna do a GoFundMe.
if it were any other situation where somebody got shot, usually the media is just like, well, guns in America, guns in America, guns in America. But because of
Right.
what he stood for, and he shot a CEO,
Show me-
somebody that made money, then all of a sudden it's
Show me a
hero.
jury of 12 people that's not going to have somebody on it that's pissed off at this at the state of healthcare in this country. You know that they're.
course.
But
that-
it
That's a
doesn't
huge part of
justify
it.
that.
I
Doesn't
understand. I'm not
justify
saying
it.
it does, but I'm saying that you're going to have somebody on that jury who's going to listen to, or the way it's going to get spun, in that the state of healthcare in this country, wealthy CEOs, all that. Somebody's going to be.
You have a couple.
You're not going to have a unanimous
You have
jury.
a couple
There's no way.
generations with low regulation in capitalism, and this low regulation is leading kind of like the profiteering, and there's a lot of people upset about it, and that's what's. I don't agree with it. You shouldn't kill somebody.
I don't agree with it either. I mean, I'm
But
just
like-
saying that's the way it's
You have
going
to
to be
I see an
change
changed.
the whole
upside.
system. You have to change the whole system upside down. This guy is just the CEO of a company, a guy that worked his way up the ladder over the last 20-something years. He doesn't, as far as he reflects the company, he doesn't reflect the entire healthcare system in America, which is the fundamental problem.
Yeah. He's playing the game.
The problem is a lot of the times with medicines, where the pill becomes 10 cents a pill, and then the CEO goes, well, we need to increase our profits. That's
Right.
a life-saving medicine, 10 cents a pill. I don't like that. Let's make it $400 a pill.
Right. Who did that
That's
with
what people
the
see and hear,
that-
and they
he's
think
in
that's
jail
smart.
now.
with the
He's in jail.
insulin, the
Yeah.
insulin guy?
Yeah, the
No,
insulin, the
it wasn't the
EpiPens.
insulin. It was something else. It was
EpiPens,
like,
wasn't it?
Oh,
Epi-
Martin Shkreli, right?
I forget his name. He like
Young guy, right?
Young guy.
Yeah.
He bought a pill that cost $100 and he started
Jacked it
charging
up to
200.
Yeah,
some
but he's in
thousand.
jail now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's where he belongs.
Okay.
That was an anomaly. That was an anomaly. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but there are mechanisms that will step in and say, okay, you guys have to make a profit. We understand, but don't be silly. I think what we're seeing is no less an action, at least in somebody's mind, than the assassination of Duke Franz Ferdinand, whose car is on display in Vienna. I saw a beautiful car. But that started World War I, right?
Yeah.
So now here's somebody who's well-educated, programmed, call it what you want, and he's doing the same thing. He wants to start a revolution, and he's going to be the martyr for it. I don't think that in trial that his that the issue of why he did it is so much a question as did he premeditate it and did he actually carry it out and is he fit to stand trial? His philosophical perspectives are going to be perpetuated by our future cat ladies who thankfully refuse to reproduce. And I'm happy about that too.
That's true.
And
Everybody here is.
and I have a question for them actually.
He's in a broken
If they so much support abortion, why don't they go and talk to their parents and ask their parents to abort them? because they do believe in post-birth abortion. So what does it matter if you're a 10-minute-old newborn and they abort you, or you're some 27-year-old idiot that your parents fucked up? Let them abort you. You don't like this life. Okay, go.
I'll
Let's come back to
switch it.
Luigi.
Yeah, I'll switch it up. I heard that somebody was speaking to me the other day. They saying, all right, the whole superhero thing is a distraction because they were supposed to. The United States government was suing the United healthcare thing because they were buying all the little insurance companies around, so they were becoming a monopoly.
Monopoly, yeah.
Now the CEO, was supposed to be testifying about what they were going owns in there, and they said that this was a planned hit by the other insurance companies. Now, I'm not saying if it's true or not, but he was supposed to testify. I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying.
I'll tell you why I disagree with this. If I plan a hit, okay, this guy didn't have a clue what the fuck he was doing with a gun. I don't care if he printed it. Unlike your perspective, where you think the printer shit out the gun.
You had to put it together.
I just put it together and it's going to work. No, it doesn't work that way because you print it and then you got to finish it. That means you have to fit it. Did you see how many? Yeah, every time he shot, he had a
he had
malfunction.
to,
All right, which means that his knowledge was sufficient to get the thing printed, but he didn't have, he was a book boy, or is a book boy, he's alive, but he didn't know that you have to take a file and you got to fit the components and you got to do all these other things that maybe I shouldn't say now, but it doesn't, and that's why it malfunctions. So the idea of it being a professional job falls out right there. If it's a professional job, then fine, you can take a gun and scratch out. Why would you keep the gun? He kept the gun. He kept the suppressor because he knew that he probably should have discarded them. But his purpose is to be a martyr. He's martyring himself. He wants to be Che Guevara this summer on everybody's shirt.
And that's what he's being that actually in some cases right now. I mean, you guys see the shirts. I think the left loves making icons out of the wrong people, typically. But he's an icon. He's a guy who came from a well-raised background, from a rich background. Then they completely kind of almost shun that in a way and make him like a Robin Hood, like someone who came from nothing and took out somebody who symbolized
Well,
wealth.
it's hard to come from nothing when your parents own a country club.
Yeah.
Well,
it's
it's also hard to do that stuff that he did when you're trying to survive.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the North Koreans do really well at keeping people suppressed because they're keeping them hungry and trying to survive. So it's hard to have an uprising when people are starving. It's hard when you're poor.
They can't afford it. They can't afford a 3D printer.
You're trying to make it. Yeah, and you can't. You don't get the education.
My question is, at what extent do people become so spoiled as a society that they produce these kinds of people? Are we that rich that at some point we try to idolize the wrong thing in order to make us feel greater or better?
You mean like getting rid of Veterans Day and replacing it with like Lunar New Year or something, whatever they replaced it with as a holiday?
I mean, let me ask you a question, all of you. Here's my question. What is the difference between rich people and poor people? What do you think it is?
I think it has something to do with mentality, personally.
Okay.
I would say the same.
I would go with like work ethic,
Okay.
which is
But what if you're
Wait,
born
because
into
of-
it? What if you're born into it?
still work ethic.
Okay.
Well, work ethic to keep it.
Money.
right?
To keep
No,
Right,
work
of
ethic to
course.
earn it.
Well, I mean,
No,
if you
no,
were
no. I'm
born
saying
into
if
it,
you're
he was-
born into
he was
wealth.
born into
It's
it.
how you look at money.
It's
Yeah.
how you, it's perspective.
It's how you manage your
It's
money.
like if it's-
So I, as an immigrant, always had this perspective. The difference between rich and poor is the problems that the rich can afford to have. So I went to law school with a woman who was extremely wealthy, from Rockefeller money.
deep money.
She grew up on her mom's hobby was to buy these $5 million houses, and then she would rehab them, make them nice or nicer, and then they would be photographed on the magazines for the rich people, and she would flip them. So every few years she would earn like $5-6 million, and they'd go to a different gated community. So you're living basically on a golf course or
Some kind of
no,
club.
no Jews or you allowed, okay? That's what I'll say. But she told me a story that I will never forget. She said when we were 16, it was popular for everyone to have a convertible Jaguar. So this would be like late 80s, the V12 Jaguar convertibles. So everybody there in their community, anybody that's anybody, had a Jaguar convertible. Her girlfriend's parents refused to buy her a convertible, bought her a brand new BMW at age 16.
She was tripping.
The girl had to go to therapy for that.
She was tripping. Okay.
Is that the modern parlance?
Yeah.
She literally had to go to therapy. So what are we talking about here? Of course, you're correct. The perspective is completely off. And so now, you know, we as parents in the United States allowed our children to be educated by people that were it not for COVID, we wouldn't know what the fuck they were putting in our children's head. We still think they're standing up in the morning and saying, I pledge allegiance to the flag. They're standing up and they're looking at, you know, some dude who's wearing high heels and has, you know, what was that show? The drag show? It was
RuPaul?
RuPaul drag.
Yes, drag race.
So back to being RuPaul's drag race. So being an immigrant, right? I was always an early bird. I would go to sleep by 9, 10 o'clock, right? And then I'd wake up at 5. But the show was on late. It was on like 11, 11:30, and I love drag racing, right? And I used to watch on Saturday morning, you know, the drag racing, and then, you know, I got sports cars and I did it myself. But I stayed up one night to see the drag racing. I turned the TV on. I was 16 or 15, and my head's going, what is this? I couldn't figure it out. And now, a school principal allows this fucking 6'8" monster,
Big
dressed
back.
as-
Yeah.
yeah, they're always massive.
Yeah, big
and they
back.
go in front of children who are, you know,
That's story time.
6, 7 years
Yeah.
old, 5
Yeah.
years old.
It's about confusion. It's about confusing them.
That'll fuck you up for life.
Yes.
It'll take you years to, and God
Yes.
knows you could repress it, and God knows when it comes out later.
Right.
You can't poison the soul like that.
You can't.
But
Yeah.
we allowed it.
That's why they do it to the young, so they can get you indoctrinated when you're
What
young.
about college?
I mean, college indoctrination when you're old.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So the indoctrination is across the board.
Yep. You know, and when it, sorry.
Go ahead. Where does it begin, though? Does it begin in elementary school? Does it begin in middle school? At
Well-
what point does
So I look. I mean,
Someone get exposed
you
to
know,
this.
like I'll take this to Jew hate. All right, because look, there's 3 of us sitting here, okay, and you know, people were nuts about the election, who was going to be elected president, and all that. But at the end of the day, these anti-Semites are at the grassroots of our society. They're teaching in schools, they're on school boards, they're in local governments, and they're making those decisions. So that indoctrination starts in elementary school. It starts at home and it starts in elementary school.
Home.
But it starts at home. So those people are now in positions of power. And they're making those decisions. And there's no way to stop them.
There's no way to remove them.
There's no way to remove them unless...
Yes, there is.
Well, get educated. Get
No,
your
you-
education.
You,
Get
get
it
rid
printed
of the teacher union structure,
That-
which
I completely agree. I was just about to
Carter
point that
put
out.
in. Carter put it in '79.
I
We didn't
completely-
always have that.
I completely agree. Every bad teacher, every bad rotten apple is protected by the union.
Yeah.
And the union has an insane amount of money to spend
And
protecting
an agenda.
that teacher.
And an
Yeah,
agenda.
they have an agenda.
Oh, yeah.
It always questions me. What sense does it make for a teachers union to vote in support of Palestine? Like you guys, like I've-
What they got to do with
it's
Palestine?
it's related to a lot. It's related to when you go back to communism, and communism says to you that the man who sits in front of you, who worked his ass off and made a lot of money, right, by the sweat of his brow, he's evil because he employs you, and you should be equal to him, even if you didn't put any effort in.
And
That's
he should share
That's
his
it.
money.
He should just
he should share
share.
his
He
money.
give it to you.
Give
not
it to
share.
you.
Share is okay. Well, you know, in Judaism, for instance, you can put up to 10%, and in Islam too, up to 10% for the poor. And in Christianity and in
10%.
Judaism, it is said that when you plow a field, you leave a corner, and that's for the poor. Okay, so, I mean, now you have a guy who he owns half the town, and he's the evil man, and you got to knock him down. So it creates a situation where the have is automatically evil and the have not is automatically the victim. And now you take that, that's your premise, that's the basis of your argument. It's always the victim and the have. And why does a rich boy feel this way? Because there's guilt. There's guilt. I mean, there are people in this country that are so wealthy that none of us can imagine, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, have you been to Florida in the waterways?
Oh, Miami?
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's, it's
You-
insane.
You can't even imagine how many millionaires we have. You see every house.
Billionaires.
Billionaires,
Forget
dude.
millionaires is trash
Billionaires.
now. You're
Yeah.
billionaires.
But that guilt,
billionaires.
but that guilt was taught in school.
In school.
And you know,
In school.
And to hit that, like I went back. I'm sorry. I went back to school 20 years after I went to college the first time, and all my business classes were cool. Strictly business.
Yep.
Strictly how to earn money. Strictly how your mindset should be when earning money. The moment that I got to like core curriculum stuff, I sat in a class taught by a white middle-aged teacher who said, you know, stuff like, "Oh, well, this is the the typical white guy power structure." One of the girls in class was talking about a Karen, and she said, typical white woman. I'm like, but you're a white woman. Like I'm not your enemy. Like I've helped half you kids in here pass,
Yeah.
and now because we're not in the business classes and we're in this core curriculum class, every time.
What year was that?
This was what, 2 years ago, Lee?
Oh, very recent.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
recently.
yeah.
And it was literally like, well, the white power structure and this and that and colonizers and this stuff that I was being called, and I'm like, I am broke like the rest of you. You know what I mean? Like I've helped all of you pass. I've given I will give you the shirt off my back. Look at the individual.
They can't.
Look at the individual. You can't. It's really no different than saying the black people do this or black people do that because they're black. You're stereotyping me.
Right.
Well,
In the
that's
They
same
still
way,
do
it's
that.
bigotry.
I mean, they still do that. Though,
Yeah.
You need that.
no
They
matter
need
what.
that. The current structure must have that. They can't have, Jews and Christian and what religion are you?
Christian.
Christian. Jews and Christians. We're missing a Muslim and a Buddhist and whatever. They can't have all of us united and be of the same mind and talk about like building families, God willing, and
Yeah.
raising children the proper way and
But-
so on and so forth. That can't be the discourse.
Yes, but it's drawn on racial lines, though. Because
It's
with
the
all,
lines-
due,
yeah.
with all due respect,
the
I don't
easiest
know
one.
that you're a Jew. I don't know that you're a Jew. I don't know that you're a Jew. You know what I mean? I don't know that until
'Cause
you
in
say
America,
something.
this is-
Exactly.
I do.
this is the
Exactly.
thing.
I don't.
Yeah.
You know? So I wouldn't know unless you said it. Like I don't know that Dave is a Jew unless he says it. But you know what I am. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know exactly what I am as soon as I step in the door.
Yeah.
So I'm already prejudged before.
But only in
You know
this
what I mean?
country.
Well,
Not in
there's
this
no
country.
borders.
No.
In this
no.
country.
Why- It's a global phenomenon.
I've lived throughout the world.
I get it, but it's still a global phenomenon.
It's definitely a global phenomenon for sure.
well,
It
certain
is
areas.
where I come from, we have a lot of Ethiopians and other people that emigrated from Africa.
Yeah, but they
And
can come in and work. Yeah.
No,
You know
they're
what I mean?
Israeli citizens.
Oh, you're talking about Israel. I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about Russia. I'm
Let's
sorry.
be fair. They are discriminated a little bit more than
Every-
Moroccans and Ashkenazim
So wait.
are the same.
When Israel has its own discriminatory history. What I wanted to say is every society has it. Usually it's
By
called the-
border, right? Usually by border or religion.
It
could be different.
in Africa, it's tribal. If you're from this tribe or that
Yes,
tribe,
it's
right?
tribal, yes.
In the Arab world, is which family do you come from? It's they're all like Islam is the overarching umbrella, but the truth lies in the Hamula. The Hamula is your extended family. So it's like, what family do you come from? So that you're like, this is my pedigree, right? In Europe, it's by birth. So it's still the old, even though they killed off the kings and queens, it's like, oh yeah, who's your dad? In the United States, it's by color. In Japan, I don't know what it is, but in India, it's by caste.
Yeah,
right?
and usually the darker ones are treated worse than the lighter ones.
Well, it's by caste, and it's not. It has nothing to do with skin color. It's so certain castes. For instance, the simple one, they're the untouchables. The
the
untouchables.
coffers. Yeah, the coffers.
They're the ones that handle the dead bodies. They're the ones that handle trash traditionally, and so on. So if you are a beautiful girl and you are, in traditional terms, you're born of this caste, and the prince of the Patels falls in love with you, it ain't happening. Okay, so there's always a division. Why? Because when you have a society it is very difficult to do what we almost accomplished in this country pre-2008. And pre-2008, the problems that you're mentioning, they were all simmering, but people on the outside, how old are you?
43.
So you remember, people on the outside, educationally, professionally, for the most part, everybody got along. Nobody gave a fuck if you showed up with a white girl to the restaurant or a
And
white dude.
pre-2008?
Pre-2008.
She. Okay.
Yeah, pre-2008.
No,
It
no,
was
no, 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 no.
Pre-2008 was a very peaceful, very harmonious time in this country
For whom?
Well,
for everyone.
let's ask. In the last 10, 12 years, has racism increased or decreased?
Increased.
Increased.
Okay.
That's right.
Well,
it has increased.
it's
Because it became an
but
issue.
I think
It
to
became
Ken's
an
point-
issue.
it's always been there. You know, white supremacy has always been
Right.
there.
So is
you know?
anti-Semitism.
You know what I mean? But like I said before, nobody knows what you are until you tell them.
The people that hate us, no.
Oh yeah,
The people that hate us,
100%.
no.
Yeah.
Because-
Yeah,
because they
yeah.
can see.
Yeah.
But see, I can't see that.
Because
I-
you don't
Because you
hate.
weren't exposed to it. You weren't exposed
You're
to it.
subject
Your
to a
parents-
different type of racism.
Right.
Your parents
Subject to
didn't
a
ever
different type.
point out
Even Italy.
Jews to you growing up. Like, I'm not. I'm not. This is not for nothing, but there are people from our backgrounds, from the Soviet backgrounds, that can look at me and identify me relatively quickly.
because they're from your background.
Exactly.
All right,
Yeah,
so-
but they identify him in a negative way.
All right, so
Yeah,
say
they identify me in a negative
all right,
way,
so
not a positive.
you know my son.
Always.
My son went to a hockey camp in Miami of Ohio, which is like near Kentucky. You could spit from here to the wall and it lands in Kentucky. And had words with somebody who looked at him and saw a Jew and made a comment about ovens in Germany.
Jesus.
So, you know, they threw down and had it out. I mean, you know, there's a white kid with a camp full of white kids, but he was probably the only Jew there. And they identified him pretty quick.
You know,
okay.
the most statistically, this is FBI statistics, so this you can look this up. And I don't want to stay on the subject because the only reason I wanted to say about racism is that even Italy has racism, but it's their version of it. So what's the racism in Italy? It's called the North-South dichotomy. It's almost like what we have in the United States, but recently that changed because economically the South is flourishing now. But the Northerners usually had more money than the Southerners. In World War II, for instance, where we started having an integrated military, blacks that were educated in the North scored higher than whites who were educated in the South, and so got rank and Tuskegee Airmen, for instance. I mean, you couldn't become a pilot if you
Oh,
were
we're talking
dumb.
about America. I thought we were still
America.
talking about Italy.
So
I'm sorry.
Italy has their own. So we have it across skin. And in Italy, for instance, you ever run into an Italian and he's like, I'm Sicilian. Well, if you go to Italy and you say I'm Sicilian, you're fucking trash. you're the peasant.
True.
You know?
Yeah, but like they said back, I was reading a book that said Italians weren't accepted into the white race until about 1960, 1955.
correct.
Okay.
Nor were
Now-
the Irish, nor were the
Right,
Jews.
Right, exactly. But what I'm saying is, everybody knows that in Italy they got a black vein going up that boot. You know, the deeper you go, Sicily and everything, the darker those people get.
Well,
The
firstly,
Moors
they're in the
invaded.
middle of
The Moors
the
invaded
Mediterranean.
Spain.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
No, the Moors also had
Italy.
Sicily.
Yeah,
Sicily.
Yeah, they went through and
Right.
changed the complexion of
I
the
mean,
place.
you
which is-
know, I'm not trying to belittle the American version of racism, right? It has a horrible story, but every society, it's almost like human nature. Like even in Israel, you think all the fucking Jews, you put them together, they'd get along, right? Because there was like 0.2% of the population of the world is Jewish. 0.2. There's only 15 million Jews, right? So, but like he mentioned, well, wait a minute. The Jews that started the modern state of Israel, the Zionists, they were Europeans. And when the Jews that, my wife is Middle Eastern, my wife is Kurdish, and her father was born in Basra in Iraq. When those Jews came in, well, they were only literate in affairs of the Bible, but they weren't educated in classical European way. So they became the trash of society, even though they were all Jews. And then they started coming up. But now the Ethiopian Jews are the latest ones to come in, and the Jews that came in the 70s and were from Russia, they were laughed at. And then the Jews that came in the 90s, and then something magical happens. You know what happens? It's called integration. Suddenly, you have children, right? So you're the filthy immigrant, but you have children who are born there. And now they're raised in a proper system that
level.
unifies all the children,
Everyone's level.
and everyone becomes level. You understand?
You could see intermarriage rates in Israel. Intermarriage wasn't a frequent thing in the 60s and the 70s.
My marriage is intermarriage.
Yeah, like.
But then you get married
Me
here.
too.
But it's
But he's marrying outside of the Ashkenazi or European culture, and even like in Israel until the 90s and early 2000s, the intermarriage rates were really low. People weren't accepting of one another, but it did calm down. And I think that in America, this might be a little controversial to say, but I think that
We're heading that way.
despite the amount of racism stuff that keeps getting yelled at, I still
In the
think
media,
that
in the media,
in the media,
yeah.
I still think that on the ground here, it is a significantly less racist country than a lot of other countries in the world.
I see
For
it.
who?
I see it. No,
For
I see it.
everybody.
I've seen both. Like being in an interracial. We were out middle cowboy country, right? Not a problem. That's Bill and Sue. Wasn't Sue's black, Bill's white. Here, black men were the biggest problems when I first got back with me and my wife. They hated that fact. It happens. People grow up with these stigmatisms and racism. I think to what you're saying, before 2008, I don't think it was that big of a gap before 2008 that things
Yeah.
were kind of simmering down, but they were going towards the right direction.
Yeah.
You're never going to get rid of assholes or monsters or people that hate. But I think at a certain point, we were starting to go, what the fuck are they doing? Why are they acting like that? When the Klan was marching through towns, they had the freedom of speech to do so, but people were there like, what? They're idiots. Look at the shit they're spouting. And I'm not saying to take that away from you, because I've been there where people who are supposedly my friends go to my wife, you speak so well. She's 30 fucking years old. She's not 5. That's not a compliment. That's an underlying racist statement.
Yeah.
You're saying
Insult.
because of the way you look, I did not expect you to speak like that.
Right.
That exists, right?
Yes, it does.
That dies out. True hatred will never die out. There's always going to be somebody that hates you because of you, hates me because of me, hates what I have, hates what you have. You know what I mean? Hates the way you look, hates what way you pray. You know what I mean? We were going in an easier direction because you're right. Like, I mean, like even look at Jamaica, right? Jamaica, because of the large Asian influence that went through there, the lighter you were, the more privilege you got from everybody in Jamaica, to my understanding. The guy that wrote that book that you gave me, The Outliers, he's mixed, and he's like,
Yep.
he discusses that. Like
Gladwell.
Like most of the shops were called Chinese shops, I think he said, because the Chinese were the ones that really owned things then. So the lighter you were, it was better. So that racism exists. It sucked, man. Your history in this country sucks. You know what I mean? The black Americans' history sucks. But, we're friends, right? We're good. We're like, I would lay down in the street for you, right? So.
Or pick you up at the bus stop.
Yeah, pick you up the bus stop. But I would know it's you. I would know it's you.
But you know what? Love conquers all.
Yeah.
I mean, look at you. Love conquers all. Love doesn't care about skin color.
Well, also, guys, over the global context of history, I want to point out how quickly that our society here has moved toward the right direction. I mean, in other countries throughout history, it takes hundreds of years for someone as I'm not saying that there is no racism against black people, but it takes hundreds of years for people to get accustomed and cool, like, you know, more neutral with it.
But I did have a question,
Here.
right? So, us getting along, you know where this comes from, right? How do we not forget our history, but move on? Because from being with a psychological background in social services, holding on to trauma perpetuates trauma.
True.
But you can't completely forget it, because then it comes back.
True.
Then it happens again. So what's the balance is what I'm going to ask you, that we can move past it as a society. I mean, obviously it's a total shit show now in this country.
Oh, yeah.
But like, if we get back to a point, what do we do? 'Cause that's always been my question, and I think you're a good enough friend that I can ask that and get a definitive answer.
Oh yeah, definitely. When it comes to foundational Black Americans, we need economic empowerment. We need our reparations. My family, my ancestry, my lineage, everything you see in this country is because of us. We built the wealth of this country, and we got the debt of it. You know, we see our reparations go outside this country all the time. Ukraine, billions of dollars.
All
you
the
know,
time.
boom, 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 boom. But then, you know, everybody's like, well, why can't you pick yourself up all by your bootstrap and stuff like that? What happens when they take away my boots and my straps? You know,
Well, they take away your education. That's
I
how
mean,
they do it.
education. We need financial restitution.
So I have a
for
question.
our-
Baltimore, not a big city, right? Baltimore? Baltimore had the third highest per student amount of money paid to its school district. I think it was $1.3 billion, okay? I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, so this is fresh. The federal government asked the question, what are we getting for our money? Baltimore is predominantly a black city. So my question is, predominantly, 80%, something like that.
Something like that.
So here it is. It's the third highest per student amount of money given out in this country. So it's something like New York, LA, Baltimore, which befuddles me because Baltimore, there are a lot of cities between the LA size and Baltimore. But nevertheless, it's the third highest amount. So here's my question to all of you. How many of Baltimore's high school students, recently, 2-3 years, were at grade level for English and math?
It's like nothing. Like no significant
Right.
percentage.
How many were at grade level in high school? So 9 through 12. How many were at the correct level of English?
You're asking for a percentage?
Yeah, percentage. Yes.
I'm gonna
thank you.
say under 10%.
Okay. What do you
Under
think?
20%.
Bill?
Probably 2 to 3.
Something like that. 10 or below.
Goose egg? None. None. So here it is, the third largest amount of money spent with no results.
Right.
Why? Why? Because the money is embezzled. The money is embezzled. Nobody gives a fuck about the kids.
Throwing money at a problem like that doesn't solve the core
doesn't. It
problem.
doesn't,
It
because-
just starts
Right.
getting people's
They're
pockets
also-
Because the
full on
money is
way down.
embezzled.
Right.
Because the
There
money
also
needs
needs
to
to
be.
be-
All right, so
It's
if
a
we're
nonprofit,
so if we're
so-
giving all right, so all right, if we're giving reparations, we give people reparations, and they don't know how to manage it. They have this money, they're not educated, they don't know what to do with it.
Okay.
Does it make their lives better?
Well, the thing about it is, and with all due respect,
Yep.
you know, only time people ask, "What are you doing with the money?" is when it comes to black people. When you give money to the Native Americans, you don't say, "What are you going to do with that money?"
We know what they're doing with it.
No, but you don't ask them what they're
drinking.
but they get casinos, they get land,
Right.
they get all that stuff. That's their reparations. They're getting theirs, you know. But you never ask, "What are you doing with the money?"
And
You
they're
never-
equally as angry though. Have you seen?
They got shafted.
yeah,
They
they
get-
got shafted bad,
they get
but they're
shafted.
still very angry.
They're still very.
And you
angry.
talk
As
about a
they-
genocide.
And the
Yes,
suicide
it
rates
is.
amongst them are higher. I get what you're
That's true.
saying, but
You
like,
know, but
Okay,
but
but
when it comes to-
we're asking about what they're going to do with the money because we're not talking about reparations for any other group. I mean, if we were talking about reparations for Jews, we're going to get reparations from Hamas. We're going to get reparations. Are those families going to get reparations?
The only
I'm talking
Jews
about-
they
I'm
get.
talking
I
about
mean,
this
all right,
country,
but so we're talking about this
federal
country.
government.
We're talking about this country. We're not talking about reparations for any other group.
Right, but
So, I mean,
but the
I'm-
Japanese got their reparations when they were interned here
But-
during World War II.
Good
They
example,
got their money
good
and they
example.
made
All
so
right,
many.
I did not know that.
Wait.
Yes.
No, good example. Very good example. And they recently only got the money.
No, they got the money back in 1990.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
that's
fair.
fairly
They
recent.
waited 45 years.
Okay.
So I'm sorry. So here's the thing with reparations. If you look at the Japanese, the people that actually suffered, the people that were actually put in internment camps, are the people that got the reparations.
Right,
When you look at Germany, Germany paid reparations after World War II.
right, to Israel.
To the Jews.
To the
No,
Jews.
not,
Oh.
not to the country,
Not to the country.
to the individuals.
Okay.
To the individual Jews who were subject to the Nazi regime, right? But their children, who are also Jews, don't get reparations if they didn't suffer directly under the Nazi regime. So the jurisprudential perspective is you are owed reparations if you are the one that actually suffered under whatever it is that we're talking about.
Right.
Whether it's being put in the ovens there or being put in, being full American citizens, but because you are Japanese, we don't trust you. We're going to put you in the middle of a camp surrounded by barbed wire in the middle of the desert.
Right.
So those people got paid the Jews that survived the Holocaust got paid, but not their children, not their descendants, because from a legal perspective, they didn't survive the horror. They were born to people who survived the horror.
Right.
Now, epigenetically speaking, children and grandchildren and their great-grandchildren of people who went through horrible things will suffer, but we don't yet know how. Okay, so even though I am the descendant of people that went through the horrible things, science is not powerful enough yet today to tell me what about me, and there's a lot wrong with me, but what part that is wrong with me directly can be attributed to the suffering of my progenitors. But
Okay, so what you're asking is,
No, I'm
because
just saying.
I didn't suffer today,
Right.
why should I get what my family are?
that's it.
It's
That's
a
how
debt.
reparations work.
Yes, but it's a debt owed. We were never paid. It's a debt owed.
Well, what's the value of
That's
that
a
debt?
different
I
word.
want to know.
20 trillion.
$20 trillion?
20 trillion.
So if you divide that by the amount of
That's
black
about
Americans.
That's about $359,000 per foundation of black Americans.
So
Really?
America tried it. America tried to do that. America tried it with the war on poverty in 1960, which basically destroyed the black family. The war on poverty under JFK and Lyndon Baines Johnson destroyed the black family. The black family survived being shipped from Africa to the islands, from the islands to America. They survived slavery, they survived Jim Crow, they survived the Civil War, they survived everything that followed that. And I talk to people because I'm fortunate that I get about 40,000 people through my business per year. And so I engage in conversation like we do now.
Of course.
And so I always talk to people about, tell me about your grandmother. Oh yeah, every Sunday after church, where do you go? You go to grandma's house. But when you ask them, well, who were the last married people in your family? And it's I'm 55, so it's the generation right above me. Like the people who are 65 to 70 are still married. As soon as you go down a generation, like you go into the 50 and below,
the marriage rates fall.
in the big city.
Crazy.
Now, what I'm talking about is in the big city.
Okay.
The big city. I don't think that the same thing happens outside of the big metropolises like Philadelphia and Baltimore. So what did the black community in the United States not survive? It did not survive the war on poverty. Why? Here's why. The war on poverty looked at statistics. Around in the 50s, the statistics said that the divorce rate in the United States was 25%. It didn't matter your economic state. It didn't matter what your skin color was, where you were from. It was a 25% divorce rate across the board, okay? So Lyndon Baines Johnson and JFK decided they were going to help the poor families in the South. And so they went to the registrar and they said, okay, who are the divorcees? Found the divorcees, went knocked on their doors, said, hey, we understand you're divorced, you have 2-3 kids, whatever it is. The government's willing to help you out, and here's the money. They start working on it. Now, let's say we're girls, right? And he's the government. He comes to me and he suddenly gives me this extra money that I never imagined even existed, right? And he's my sister, right? So
He's your sister.
where am I
Gotcha.
going? I'm going to my sister and I'm going to say to her, listen, if you tell the government that you're divorced, they're going to give you money.
Oh, yes.
And so on and so forth, right?
Yes.
So now the government now does an audit, right? And they're like, well, there's something unusual here because the divorce rate amongst the poor blacks has gone from 25 to 75.
Yes.
Okay, so what does the government do? Well, if it functions well, they're going to say, well, we got to go investigate, right? So how do you investigate that? Well, if a man is working, man, right? Dinner should be around what, 6:30 in the evening? Okay, so you knock on the door. Kid answers, where's your daddy? Daddy, somebody wants you. Oh, you told us you don't have a husband.
Right.
You told us you're divorced. Okay, so here's the next step. They catch a few like that. The word goes out. Hey, tell your husband to go live with his brother. Tell your husband to go live with his cousin. Tell your husband to go stay at whatever's house, right?
So they can get that check.
So you can get the check.
Right.
So now, okay, now that the father is not in the house artificially, still has connection, but now you got a house full of dudes, right? And back then, believe it or not, there were party girls like there are party girls today.
Of course.
All right. So now the party girls are getting pregnant, and dude has no responsibility because as soon as she's pregnant, she's a single mom. She can get paid.
Right.
All right. So this is 1960. Now this is on YouTube. Okay.
We're getting closer to Luigi.
Okay.
2024.
I must finish this. I must finish this because this is everything I'm telling you is historically correct,
Okay.
factually provable,
Right.
and I highly recommend if you don't know him, Thomas Sowell, who's still alive. He's 94 years old. He's a black man. He grew up in New York, in the Bronx. He fought in Korea. He's self-made, self-educated man, a former communist until he worked for the federal government and figured out that it's wrong. And he's the world's probably preeminent economist. He wrote a book on economics with not one single formula in it, because economics is the study of human conduct, right?
Right.
So it's more a psychological book, right? So he's a brilliant man. You see a lot of lectures by him. So anyway, so that's a reference source. So in 1984, I think it was 84, there was a film crew in Newark, New Jersey. They're 24 years after 1960. And they're interviewing young men and young women who are below age of 20. And by then you already see a young black man sitting there in the middle of the day, not working, saying, I got 6 kids or 7 kids. And they ask him, well, how do you provide for them? He says, I'm not worried about it because the government pays for them.
Right.
So the fundamental failure of the American society to the American black, the fundamental failure is the war on poverty. Because if you look at black society post-slavery, you already had congressmen, scientists,
Oh, yeah,
lawyers, Supreme Court justices.
And it was 85% marriage rate.
Exactly. So what they did,
Was take the man out of the
they
house.
destroyed the family.
Yes.
They went to the foundation.
The government did do that.
Yes.
But the government did that, and they incentivized the black man to be out of the house
Exactly.
so that you can destroy the black family structure.
And they
But
did a
it's
great
still-
job of it.
Right, but it's still white supremacy. It's still white supremacy to destroy the black family, just like the drugs that were pumped into our
I think it
pumped
was-
into our cities. You know what I mean?
I think
just
they
like
wanted to
the
vote.
war on crime is just war on black people.
They
That's
wanted to
all it
buy the
is.
vote. I don't disagree. I mean, of course you can look at it in terms of white supremacy versus the American black. Of course you can look at it like that. But I think if you were to ask Lyndon Baines Johnson, why are you guys down there? Because those were people that weren't voting and they wanted their votes. Because the Democrats were on the ropes after World War II, because the country was extremely wealthy. I mean, we gave Europe $14.5 billion in then money. So something like $7 trillion
it's
to
crazy.
rebuild, right?
Yes, they did. The Marshall Plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
So
Marshall
exactly.
Plan. But we never got a Marshall Plan.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, but-
We never got, nobody rebuild our
So
society
the-
from being
So
destroyed.
the rebuilding, what Lee said, I'm sorry, one more point,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
So the rebuilding, money can be involved once you give it to people that are at grade level for math and reading. We owe that society. We as a country
Mm-hmm.
failed the American black.
Yes.
The failure has to be quantified and understood so it can be repaired. The money comes in the investment into each individual above and beyond to get them to be a functional human being.
Exactly.
True,
I
but if you
completely
can't,
agree.
but if you can't, you can get all the education you want. But if you can't get a job in that field, it doesn't matter what you get. That's why I'm saying
That's
we
back
need
to the
the money.
educational
Yes,
system.
but true, but we need money.
Okay.
It is not educational. It's financial. Is what we were destroying
But you have to
and
be
what is continuing to destroy.
sophisticated to have the money.
But the thing is, there's going to be in any society, there's going to be a group of people that fuck off the money. Sorry for
All right,
cussing.
that's what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
Like if we
there's
give
gonna be-
we give 359,000.
Yeah.
Everybody, there's going to be some failure.
Yeah, there's
so then
gonna be.
whose fault's that at that point?
But the thing is, but in any society, there's
Yeah.
going to be a group of people that fuck off the money. There's going to be, and then there's going to be a group of people that build businesses and make that grow.
Because
how
There's
many,
gonna be-
how many are going to build
but,
businesses?
but the thing is, that's none of your concern. We just want our money.
No,
It's
but-
our money, but it's none of your concern, homie.
Why
Nobody
not?
asks it because nobody
Well,
asks
because
if
when
anybody
these
else
people
what to do
fail,
with the money.
somebody has to
but the
pick
thing
them
is, then
up.
that's our fault. No. You give us our reparations. We failed.
Yeah,
That's on
it doesn't
us.
work that
But
way.
but
Ken,
that is the way it
but,
goes.
I mean, like, yes, right? That is true. People are going to fail, and you're rational enough to go. People are going to fail, but
Yeah.
the people who fail are still going to blame white people.
No, they're not going to blame white people because even if they fail, even if they fuck off their money, it's still going into the economy and it's still moving the economy. If let's just say a portion of the black people when we get our reparations buy Jordans. It's still going into the economy and moving the economy. Let's say a portion of the black people buy a bunch of Cadillacs. It doesn't matter. It's still moving the economy. Nobody's system.
But what I mean is to stabilize them, to uplift them, to get them up there. There's going to be people to fall. Any race, people are going to fall off. But who do they hold responsible at that point?
Once we get what's owed to us,
I think you're both right.
We are held responsible for us.
I think you got to uplift them.
But-
Well, firstly, it can't be us and them because we're a country. Okay? As soon as we start talking about us and them, we're creating new lines of division.
Exactly.
But there's a Chinatown in every major city, okay?
Okay.
There's a little Ethiopian town down in Germantown,
Okay.
you know, but they have their own societies.
They have their
okay?
own expression.
They have their own, but
Okay.
they have their own.
But we're
parts
still one
of the-
country?
Yes, we're still one. But they have.
Okay.
But see, where's the little foundational Black American?
Where's the individuality?
You know what I'm
you're
saying?
asking?
But the thing is, why we should be able to plot our own destiny, just like Chinatown, just like
But the
Ethiopian
Chinese that
town.
came here, I know many of them, and they're like me, immigrants. They didn't have shit.
Yeah, they didn't.
They didn't get.
They didn't get anything. They didn't have
Would
shit.
cash be the goal, or
Well,
would
here's-
you rather get a house, or would
here's-
you rather give a certain item of value?
I'm going to tell you
to
one
the
thing,
Black
just from my
American?
perspective. I get reparations from the government for being a disabled vet. You're right, and you're right. The money helps, but not all the way, because I'm still fucking broke. Right? I don't know what to do with it. I get it, and I spend it. Like, I don't know what to do with it. So that's what he's saying. It's in order to uplift the black community in this country, who's been, deprived since the beginning of them getting here. There needs to be some cultural fusion and some education.
Yes.
And
but
how
there's-
much of that cultural fusion happens without destroying your culture completely, but uplifting it at the same time. So, yeah, we'll give you.
But there's a lot of us that are financially savvy. It's not like all
No, I'm
black
not
people
saying-
just
no,
tricking off
no,
their money.
and you know I don't
what I'm
say
saying?
that.
And you know what's
there's
proof
a
this?
lot- there's a lot more
There's a proof to what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Under Trump, the last administration, the ownership of small businesses owned by blacks went from 4% of the black population to 24% of the black population.
And
20 or
home ownership went up.
went up as well.
It went up as well.
course,
You know,
of course.
because Trump left us the fuck alone. Trump doesn't care about black people.
And that's the
You know what I mean?
point.
As soon as
he
you
cares
leave us
about
alone,
the country.
Yes, but as soon as you leave black people alone, because every time we have our successful cities, Tulsa, Oklahoma, you know what I'm saying? It's bombed by the white supremacists. Every time we have
Every
our
time
Rosewood,
the government
Florida.
is involved, it fucks up.
Right, but the
Exactly.
government is white supremacy.
Because the government wants the black vote.
The government-
because
I
the
think-
government.
I think it circles around multiple times because you have to keep in mind that the majority of these major cities where a lot of Black Americans live are run by Democrats. They're
Yeah.
run by the same thing that we're against.
Oh yeah, they're definitely run
And
by Democrats, and
Democrats
I'm not a Democrat. Okay,
How do we
This is-
get here,
okay. I'm not a Democrat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that when it comes to reparations for foundational Black Americans, we have there's a debt owed by this country to foundational Black Americans.
And I'm
You know
not
what
saying you're wrong, but again, I just know the reality of the situation. Those who fail, regardless of what race they are, will blame whoever they've been blaming for the entirety of the time that they
That's true,
existed.
but guess what? You can't blame nobody once you get your money. That's what I tell people.
You
get your
shouldn't, but
money,
you can.
You can, but nobody's going to listen to you because now you got your reparations. Now, if you trick it off, you know it'll still move the economy, but you can't blame anybody because you got what was owed. You know, I can't pay my credit. I can't not pay my credit card bill.
Who buys sneakers for $500 in the United States?
A lot of people. A lot of people.
Okay, Hispanic and black mostly. Would you say?
I know.
That's changed a lot
I know.
over the last 10
Yeah, I know
years.
a bunch
lot
of,
of this has changed
I see a bunch of
lot.
white women with
Yeah.
Jordans.
Okay.
Like, I mean, so
They're fashionable
Stanley
today,
Cups.
right? No, so my question is this. So I'm an observer, and I see people come to my business, and I saw a girl wearing a pair of sneakers. I've never seen them in my life. They looked so funky. They wouldn't be for me, but I had to compliment her. And she told me they were Balenciaga or something like that.
Yeah.
Some brand. And it was $1,500.
and that's I call that tricking off your money.
Okay,
You know what I mean?
so
but
when
it
I-
still moves the economy.
Wait,
But I've seen a white woman with 11 grand purse.
Yeah, yeah.
Or those big ass purses.
But you know how I see it? You know how I see it? I see a young lady that's a single mom that's struggling, that wants to fit in, and to fit in she has to pay $1,500 for a pair of sneakers. I see that as modern day slavery. It's economic slavery, okay? Because if you're a savvy person, before you pay $1,500 for a pair of sneakers, your income, let's say you have a family, right? So you have 2 kids, you have all the usual stuff, God willing, and by the time you take care of what you need to take care of, your family, right? Head of household. By the time you're buying those $1,500 sneakers, you better be making over $100,000 a year so that you can actually buy them and not worry about
Right.
not eating for 2 weeks or
Right.
something.
The light bill or cable bill.
So I see so many people that have been programmed, and this is what I'm talking about. The programming is across the board. It could be you're not getting enough education, because I see young people who are not literate. They can't they can't write.
Right. There's a lot of
18
them.
years old. 18. The kid, God willing, he lives to be 120, but he's illiterate in 2024.
This is the best final episode ever. We're getting canceled after this. We've had transgender, abortion, politics, religion.
How do we get here? How do we get here from Luigi?
The reparations.
I'll be producing for Ken next week.
This is Luigi Black.
We have to bring back. We have to bring back the
gotta
foundation.
head
The
out.
foundation of any society
Is a family.
starts in a family.
Yes, it does.
100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry.
It's all right. I'm just thinking, I'll be producing for Ken next week. I'll be off camera.
No, you put a bag over it.
But quick question about the Luigi thing. The Luigi thing. How did he get from Midtown Manhattan to Pennsylvania? Altoona, Pennsylvania. There's a freaking cop on every corner. There's a camera on every corner. He ran into Central Park. How didn't you see this?
Didn't
That's
he?
why I thought.
All right, so he was masked, right? And ultimately, how he got caught was, I think he was at like a Starbucks or something.
No, it was a McDonald's.
Was it McDonald's? No, he got caught at McDonald's.
Oh,
but
oh,
how he
oh.
got ID'd, I should rephrase. How he got ID'd was he was at a Starbucks or something, and the barista thought he was hot and wanted to see him smile, so he pulled his mask down and boom, they got a perfect picture of him in pursuit.
Pussy will get you every time.
Pursuit of pussy. Right? So if had he never done that,
True.
he might have never got caught.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, how did from the heaviest populated city in America?
All right, so he didn't. Maybe he pulled. I don't know where that Starbucks was, or wherever
How did he
that
get
was,
past the
but-
cops?
Yeah.
Somebody pinned me in my car. I pulled out my Glock. They drove away. I got a picture of the car, picture of their license plate. They got them on camera pinning me in the car. You remember I told you this?
Yeah.
It was the hit
What
and run, right?
happened?
The cops came out. I gave them everything. They said, "Oh, it's a rent-a-car in Ben Salem." From Ben Salem thing. Okay, so now what? That's it. I don't know what they were going to do to me. They pinned me in, and I didn't point it at anybody. I put my Glock up on the dash, and they drove off.
Okay.
Right?
What do you mean they were
What,
going to
like-
attack you?
I don't know what they were going to do. I was sitting in my car. I just got done talking to my wife. They pinned, they hit the side of my car. And I looked over, and they were looking in, and I pulled out my Glock and put it up on, and they drove. I took a picture of everything. The cops got all that, did nothing with it. Nothing with it. That's how he got all the way there, passing all those cops.
Defund the police.
But you just put your Glock on the dash.
On the
Yeah,
dash.
but this man shot somebody in the
Yeah.
freaking. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but they didn't do anything due diligence. They had enough evidence there, and he only had a picture of him and his eyebrows.
Because at that point they didn't have a picture of him because he went from the shooting to wherever he went
They're
and didn't
overworked.
have a picture of him until he went and pulled his mask down to smile at that chick.
Now, hold on, though. Dan has to leave, so. We started. We're losing
Yeah,
people.
Dan
we
had
back
a-
at it.
Prematurely evacuated. So.
Hey, sometimes that happens.
We'll have to get this gang back together for the David or Save It.
Yeah. I got an extra space. We're just gonna have to figure out the mic situation, but
Yeah.
I got plenty of headphones, so.
Yeah, we'll have to get Yuri. You'll have to come back again. We'll have to do another Saturday again if you're available. We'll give you a heads
Yeah,
up.
I mean, I checked the business. They're good. So.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, we were on Luigi, right? And,
So I still don't think that now I'm not I'm not saying that he shouldn't be convicted, but I think they're going to have a hard time convicting
Well, they're going to
him.
find it's going to be hard with the jury as much
Yeah.
support as there's not many people
Yeah.
against him. And
that's-
again, it's a state. Everybody in this country knows somebody who got screwed medical wise, but it doesn't necessarily mean you get to go around shooting people.
Right, but you
Especially
pulled up-
people when you're targeting specifically money people, because that's a step towards that communist government
Yep.
regime.
Yeah, but taking a man from his family. Taking a man from his family. I understand.
And could you imagine being the family right now?
That's
and
exactly-
seeing all these people
exactly.
cheering that he's
Yes.
essentially that he's dead.
That's
right before
disgusting.
the holidays.
Shows you how
Oh,
sick
yeah.
our society is.
Yeah, it's
Very
it's a
sick.
bad situation.
Yes, sir.
So,
Okay.
all right, so we've covered reparations, abortion, transgender, politics,
Education.
history lesson, education.
I missed the transgender and abortion. Well, we're talking about
Oh, the 6-foot guy with the lipstick on and
Yeah.
what was what
He
you
should
said.
go to his
RuPaul
parents'
drag
house.
racing.
RuPaul.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, RuPaul drag racing. But it's but when it came to like you were saying the RuPaul drag racing, I remember it was like so like on late at night. You
Yeah.
didn't have to work. Now it's in your face.
Yeah.
It's every day. It's
Yeah.
like
But that's the thing.
new
the-
episodes
the-
of
the-
RuPaul drag racing.
The Don't Say Gay bill was not a Don't Say Gay bill. It was do not teach sexuality in any way, shape, or form
Right.
to children of this age and below.
Right.
homosexuality, you mean? Like,
No.
Any
Any
sexuality.
sexuality.
Because they're kids. They shouldn't
Because
be
they're
thinking
kids.
about
oh,
it.
the Florida bill.
Yeah,
the Florida
but
law.
it got turned into because they had to name every sexuality you cannot teach because that's what our society is now. It got turned into Don't Say Gay bill, and people just ran with it because nobody does the research.
Right.
Nobody looks. Like I went and read the bill,
Right.
and it was just don't teach kids. I think it was like 3rd grade and below. Don't teach them
Yeah.
sexuality.
Well, that's normal.
It's
Yeah,
crazy. It's
and-
like you know, I hate to say this, you know, I have gay friends.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you know, people say I have black friends. No, I have gay friends and whatnot. You know, and I don't sit there and not condone. I'm sorry, I don't demonize them for what they do. That's their life.
Yeah.
They want to live their life, no problem. But don't shove it down my throat.
So you don't go around telling them I'm a heterosexual man and this is what I like to do you?
Right. Oh,
Forced compliance is something that I never agree with because forced compliance is also going down that road.
Right.
Of a different thing other than democracy or
Yeah.
having a republic.
Yeah, putting somebody on the spot
Yeah,
nicely, right?
you need to do, and we think because we're not dragging people out and the secret police aren't coming in and shooting you in the back of the head or torturing you, we think that the kinder, gentler way of doing it by firing you, ruining your life, putting you on social media, destroying because you have a difference of
Canceling you.
opinion, canceling you, we think that is somehow better, but it's the same exact thing that regimes have done in the past. We're
It's a
in
different type of
So
assassination.
where's the line? Where do you draw the line for free speech? Like
For free speech?
You know, with free speech, like
It's easy.
You know, all this anti-Semitism that we're seeing now is under the guise of free speech. All this violence that we're seeing on college campuses is under the guise of free speech. Where do you draw the line?
when
for
you
free-
stop
for free
it when you
speech?
shout fire in the movie theater.
No, there's it's actually a well-trodden legal, and you know, I'm not the legal scholar here, but free speech is so important in our society that we're willing to tolerate hate speech. Hate speech is protected speech. Speech that that is incitement speech, like, hey, let's go and
Storm
kill the
Capitol.
guy when we're done
hanging
here.
up
'cause-
hanging up wanted posters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yep.
so that's incitement to violence. That's not protected speech. But see, we have a social mechanism for that, right? I ran into this in my daughter's school. She goes to Central. They have one metal detector, and if you don't make it to the metal detector by 8 o'clock, you're deemed late. No matter how long the line outside the school is waiting to go through, right?
Are you serious?
So totally
Yeah.
serious.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
So my daughter goes to school at 6 a.m.
yeah, I'm like, why don't you send somebody out with a clipboard and check off the kids that are there but
Yeah.
haven't made it to the one and only metal detector?
Right.
So my youngest daughter, you know, we didn't raise our daughter stifled, so she's got a mouth on her. And in the morning, she's not a morning person, she made it to the metal detector and she was about to step in, it turned 8:01, which means she's late. And she says, this is retarded. Out loud. She said, this is retarded. So the school vice principal flags her, embarrasses her in front of everyone, and tells her you can't talk like that. So I go in and whatever, but the point is, if she said this is retarded to a person, which I agree, don't call people retarded today. That's our generation. We can call each other retarded and survive.
I miss those words.
Wouldn't society, wouldn't her peers ostracize her for being a fucking idiot? Right? Of course they would. And that's what you're saying, that we've already come to a point in our society where if you're that, let's say, the Nazi, right? The Jew hater, and you come in and you call us whatever you can call a Jew these days to hurt our feelings, right? And you do it in a social setting. If you're surrounded by normal people, they'll say, well, you know, obviously this guy's not right in the head, so we're going to kind of shun him. And so I think that we have to get away from what we've gotten accustomed to, and that is the nanny state.
Well, Karl Popper kind of explained that you can't tolerate, there's no such thing as 100% tolerance, because there's certain things that you can't tolerate. And we're trying to create this, we're going against those words, we're trying to create a society where we tolerate everything but nothing at the same time.
Well, and we look at that as minor crime. You know, if we want to look at that as crime, you know, how the vandalizing of college campuses and whatnot, we don't prosecute it.
Yep.
So we
No consequences.
There's no consequences. There's no accountability. There's no consequences. So if there's no consequences, why not spray kill the Jews all over the fucking
And you know what? I don't
school.
like the word tolerate. I never liked it. And I'll tell you why. Let's say I'm a white supremacist, and I say, oh, I'm going to tolerate all blacks. But I'm going to stop, but the day I stop tolerating them, hell's going to hit, right? No, it's acceptance. You accept or you don't accept. It makes it simple because, oh, the cup of my tolerance has runneth over. You know, like, no. I mean, it's a binary choice. You know, I accept this or I don't. If I don't accept it, fine, I walk away. There's the rest of the world for me, you know? But tolerance scares me because, you know, not to bring up Jewish history again, but Jews were tolerated until they were not tolerated. And usually when they stopped being tolerated, they were either barbecued at the stake, put in the oven, or whatever other, you know, like,
analogy.
yeah, flavorful ways of torturing and killing people. happen to be the thing.
Anti-Semitism is the weirdest thing to me, because I've met people who you would assume are pretty rational people, and then they'll go, well, you have to look at history. What race more than any other has been kicked out or blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah from any society other than Jews? There's got to be something to it.
Yeah, and we survived, didn't we?
But here's the thing: is like I've heard that a few times, and I've never. That same person will look at somebody who said something about that about black people or Asian people and go, "That guy's an asshole." I'm like, "But you just said that about a group of people." It's a weird, different racism,
Yeah, it's,
bigotry than I've seen.
it's
Like,
much more
it doesn't make it any
long-rooted.
better, but it's way more accepted.
It is accepted.
And then like there's
it's
people,
dangerously accepted
and then
today.
And then there's parts of it that like the justifications behind any racism is always stupid, but it's just weird. Like they always point to like history, and it's always this group of people. It's always this group of people. What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything.
So
Well,
you have to
that's 'cause-
understand. They like to twist the words and use words like, well, you have to understand the context, or like you hear that a lot now. You have to understand the context of Zionists
Let me
and
justify
Zionists
the
and
fact
Jews.
that I'm a pig.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
then after I justify it to you
Yeah.
with flowery language, you'll agree with me.
Yeah.
No, that's why I use the word acceptance, because acceptance is a very yes or no type of situation. Tolerance is, well, like I said, when my cup runneth over, I'll kill all of you, you know. But tolerance, you teach your children. You don't like this person? The world's a big place. Don't share a space with them. Move on.
Yep.
Okay, and the thing about all the alphabet soup people, I'm like, look, we're all adults, right? People have all different, things they like to do behind closed doors. Do them,
Right.
okay? So long as you like goats, that's fine. Is the goat old enough to consent? That's fine. Goat, you like him? You like the goat? Go. I don't need to see it.
Yeah, I don't need to hear it. I don't need to see
Yeah.
it.
Go do whatever the fuck you
happy,
wanna do.
It doesn't hurt anybody else.
Yeah,
And
but don't put it in my face.
well,
Don't put it.
it's the modern beer hall push.
All right. So but when,
It's
when you get-
narcissism. It's
Well,
all about me. Look at me.
But when you get down to the legalities of it, are you going to fight them being able to get married?
Listen,
The goat?
Goat?
The guy?
No.
Well, I don't think a goat can.
let's get stuck in the goat part.
That's what I was thinking.
What about a donkey? Does the donkey have the same rights as a she-goat? You know?
No, I
what about
mean-
if you like male goats? Is that like what kind of homosexuality is that?
That's bestiality, isn't it?
bestiality.
Yeah, but it's bestiality with another male. I mean, that's like homosexual bestiality then.
I don't know. I think
Dude,
it's
you're,
all
you're, going, you're going deep, dude.
No, years ago, I don't know, 2010 maybe. I don't know if you guys heard or remember this, but there was a place in Virginia where people would go for bestiality. And there was a guy that they put him on this jig, and they brought a horse with a fucking heart on, like this big. And the horse, when they put his schlong up against the guy's ass, the horse thrust. And the guy died a few hours later in the hospital. Can you imagine being like the ER people taking him in?
ER people
What's your
see the
injury?
weirdest shit.
Can you imagine being the EMT that had to go and do that?
Closer to your profession. How much gauze do you put in there?
Would you rather deal with that or have to Narcan somebody? Which
Narcan all day, every day.
I've seen some crazy Narcan.
Wait, you guys never heard of that?
I never heard of
No,
that.
no, that's a first.
Coming
really
up with
happened.
that scene.
That's a first.
Like, how does that? How does that come out on the box? Like 35-year-old male anal trauma? Like
Yeah.
like rectal bleeding? Like
Oh my god.
Oh my God.
you know, holy crap. Damn.
Press charges against the horse.
There's no consent.
Right. And, you know, some animal rights group will come up and be like, "Whoa, that horse has the right
Yeah.
to choose who he wants to." Yeah, like, you know.
Oof.
Oh, I forgot you. Virginia Court of Appeals upholds bestiality law. There you go.
Upholds species. Wasn't there somebody in PA
See,
a couple
didn't
years
I-
ago?
Why are we talking
See,
about that?
yeah. What,
You brought it up, bro.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Why-
saying, why is this even being brought in court?
Yeah.
In
why does-
2019.
Because
voting
it's
on this?
Virginia.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, but who's voting on this? How do you sit there and bring that bill up? Yeah, we're gonna.
How do you keep a
House
straight face?
Bill 375, you know, bestiality, and like, how do you bring that up?
Yeah,
Is that on C-SPAN?
Wait, states in which bestiality is legal.
Do not get that on your search.
Yeah. You might want to take that off.
Can you imagine what his social media? Can you imagine what his social media algorithm will be for the rest of the week?
They'll be here in 5 minutes, but they can't figure out. Can we talk about the drones? Can we talk about the drones? Because I have no clue what the fuck is happening. But
Yeah. Oh my
people
God.
I
this
know are
drone
posting
thing.
pictures, and I know
I
they're
hear,
saying.
I hear it's the mothership from Iran. I hear it's-
all the other stuff. Oh, you
There's
mean
no
like the
way,
random
Tiran.
things?
There's no way.
I didn't think that's bullshit. I think
It's all over the
distractions.
country. It was in
Yeah.
Germany too.
It was in Germany.
Yeah, in Ramstein Air Force Base. I heard it.
I thought it was
Yeah,
the
it's
Chinese.
over all the military.
Yeah, I thought it was
installations.
the Chinese thing. Remember, because they had the blimps or whatever
Oh,
going
the
over
balloons.
The
balloons
balloons.
going over the bases. I thought
Well,
it was another
we've let
Chinese.
so many people in this country that like are military age from different, and they're all coming through the southern border, but they're not all South American or Central American.
No, no.
You have them from all over the place.
Oh,
Who
yeah,
knows
there's,
what's
there's a
going
bunch
on?
of Chinese. Did you see?
30,000
And then you can get them on
Chinese.
Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, did you see the
30,000 military age man,
Yeah,
Chinese
they
male.
they had it on the thing. There's a line of Chinese people coming in through Mexico. You know, I was like, what the hell is
You know, a lot
this?
of Russians came in through, the ones that ran away from Putin during this war.
Really?
Well, that was the funny part about
thought
the North Koreans helping in the Ukraine is a lot of them just left. As
Yeah,
soon as
that's
they
what
surrounded
defected.
Ukraine,
They
defected.
ran.
were
As
just
soon as
like-
they touched down,
They're
in
like, I
Ukraine,
give up.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
Of
I
course.
thought the Ukrainians were like coming over, just normal. You know, like
No, Russians, not Ukrainians.
Oh.
Russians that were people of stature in Russia pre-2020, when the war started in 22, so pre-2022, and as soon as Putin started the war, they were like, we got to get the fuck out.
Okay.
So now they're here. A lot of them are in Philly,
Yeah, because
allegedly.
Yeah, I was talking to one of my friends that goes to the dojo, Alex Linnick, and he was saying that he was in a restaurant around here, and he's Russian, and there was Ukrainians there, or he's Ukrainian, he's Russian, and they were about to go to war. He
Was
pulled
there
out his
booze
gun.
involved?
Was there what?
Was there booze involved?
Oh, I'm sure it was.
Well, there you go.
But you know, but like you're in a totally different country. Why are you bringing that?
Leave the shit back
Yeah,
there.
yeah. But that's what he said. He was like, I left Russia for that bullshit.
Well, it goes to the same thing, like at the schools and everything, when everything started popping off, and it actually still going on over in Gaza and stuff like that. What do the kids and the businesses and everything over here have to do with? They have no control of what's going on over there.
And
even
they're-
if you're totally on Palestine's side, the people here have nothing to do with it.
Right.
But it's justified to go and attack them, stop them from going to school. Some kid that made his way into Harvard or MIT is now getting spit on as he's trying to get to class because he's
Yeah.
Jewish and he has nothing to do with
But
what's
that
going on
goes
over there.
back to their programming where there's an oppressed and an oppressor. So Israel is a strong country. It's a country of the first rate. It leads the world in many fields, medicine, IT, and so on, weapons. And so it's success. The success of the country is what puts the neo-Marxists aligned against it, because now it's the pawn. The pawn is like the lord, or like in England, the lord who owns the land, and everybody's indentured servitude. So that's the perspective. And,
like
and
the
that's
king
why,
and the serfs, the king and the serfs.
yeah. So
something
so
like
what
that.
happened in the communist, when the communists came in and killed the czar, they appropriated all the land. They took the land from the traditional landowners and allegedly redistributed it to the people, but
They
then
didn't know
there
how to
were-
work it.
yeah. Well, there were caveats, and many of them died of starvation when the government got involved and started telling the people how to do what they've been doing for hundreds of years.
Right.
6 million people died under Stalin because his newly appointed DEI guy that was in charge of farming decided that henceforth we're going to do farming the communist way, and 6 million Ukrainians perished. People would fucking eat the dead and sell their children for food. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Sorry, I didn't know. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
government. Anytime. Look, we talk about the American, the 1929 crash of the stock market. The stock market crashed, but because we're a decentralized economy, which is the opposite of communism and socialism, it didn't really matter. Why not? Well, because the grocery store still opened and the gas station still worked and cars still broke, and there were other businesses and parts of the economy that were, well, basically independent of the market, right? So there was actually a fucking recovery. The country was recovering in 1930. By March or April of 1930, I think the crash was July of 29. So within 6, 8, 10 months, there was a recovery. The crash happened after the government decided that they knew how to run the market. That's when the crash really happened.
So what you're saying is the communists in this country are just talking shit because they never really lived under communism. And
They
don't
never
see
lived
how it
under.
works.
They don't have. And you know what the sad part is? Everybody, everywhere that wants to sprout communism, know for sure in the hearts of hearts and whatever there is of their mind that they will do it better than Joseph
It's
Stalin.
just never been done right.
Yeah.
But then as a species, we
Yeah.
can't do it right
Yeah.
because we've never.
It's
done
not
it right.
natural.
Yeah, it's not natural.
Not natural.
Right.
It's there's an alpha somewhere,
Yeah.
and you're not it.
Well, speaking of alpha, you know what when this whole, thing that we're finishing up with now, with all the colorful stuff that's happened in the last 4 or 5 years, when it started to happen, I looked at my wife and I said to her, "This is the rebellion of the betas. It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
These
These
the
are
incels.
the rebellion of the betas. Okay,
Yep.
they want to destroy the system where they know as individuals that they will never succeed because it takes merit, because it takes backbone, because it takes fortitude, because it takes fucking failing 10 times before you succeed once in a meaningful way.
And they can't fail. It hurts to fail. I don't want to fail.
Because our generation fucked them up with the participation trophy. When Lee and I were kids, you won the game or you lost the game.
right.
You won the race or you lost the race. There was
Sure.
no like everybody, oh, you showed up. Well, let me give you a participation trophy. Oh, you got first place? You get the same piece of shit trophy.
The same plastic
I
piece.
remember being a kid and told that I suck and
Yeah.
we lost, and then going home and crying and then getting mad and then coming back and getting better.
That's
And
what
putting
it's
in the work,
about.
you know what I mean? Like,
And you
it's-
never wanted to be picked last.
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
the worst
you
thing.
didn't want to be the last one picked.
Does it suck? Does it hurt? Yes, but that's where you persevere. That's where you overcome. That's where you decide. That's what I tell my daughter when stuff gets hard. She loves wrestling. She loves being with the team and stuff like that. But there's times where she's tired. And I'm like, this is what determines who you are as a person.
Yes.
I will
Fortitude,
stand by.
fortitude, yes.
I'm like, I can tell you what I want you to do, but you're not my life. You have to determine your own life. But this is going to what you decide now determines if you fold
Yep.
every single time something gets hard, or if you suck it up and
Yes.
push through and persevere and become better.
So-
Nobody evolves through comfort.
Lee told me something about a year ago. We were talking about his son, and he said to me, I told my son that he has to run every morning. But then it was a rainy day, And his son came to him and said, "What about today?" And Lee said, "Well, what about today? You think the commander in your school is going to let you sleep in because it's raining?" And the kid made a decision.
Right.
Lee didn't make him go out and fucking run.
Right.
He said, "It's your decision. It's your life."
Yeah.
He told
And
me
the
that
kid
story.
went out there and he ran and he ran and he ran, and we all know where he is today. I mean, what you and your wife accomplished with your children, God bless you a million times
Oh,
over.
we're not done. I mean, we got a long way to go with my little one.
I do that. I try that with my daughter. I let her make a lot of the decisions. And I say, look, I can tell you which way I want you to go, but this is determines who you are as a person. And there's been times where I'm tired, and she's like, "Dad, but you're tired." And I'm like, "This is when I need to go. This is when I need to go.
Do it when you're
and
tired.
Go train, yeah, and
you're
push
tired.
through and."
And in different ways, you are equally or more successful with your children than we were with ours. I mean, our children are well on the road to being successful in their own rights. Yeah.
I remember we have twins, they're 23. And one of them, super athletic, Lauren. Gabi, her twin, 100% her mom, when her mom was younger, because now she does yoga, she's pretty formidable. But this child could walk on a straight and level floor, no carpet, nothing, just a freaking floor, and boom, fall like a sack of shit, right? And I'm like, how do I have, because I'm a lifelong athlete, except I don't do the gym, but I'm still, I move, I do things. I'm like, how did I get a kid that has 2 left feet, right? So one day she's walking and she falls right in front of me. Boom. And you know what she did? She had her bingy and she turned and she looked at me eye to eye because she wanted to know, how do I react? How does she react in that moment? I looked at her, I said, "Get up, keep moving."
Exactly.
That's exactly what she did. That's exactly what she did. And so the people that we are seeing now, they didn't get that.
Oh my God, she fell.
We went to school with people like that.
Yeah.
I remember when I came to America, they put me in Baldy Middle School. They put me in a GA2, which was an average class. I loved the kids there. They were black, they were white, they were Hispanic, they were blue-collar children, right? And then they realized that academically I belonged somewhere else, so they put me somewhere else. I so didn't belong. The kids were completely different. They were the cuddled ones. They were the ones that raised the idiots that we're seeing now with the purple, green, and yellow hair that don't know what to do with their gender.
So my
Okay.
dad, I played ice hockey in high school, so we were playing roller hockey.
I used to run because I don't know how to roller skate.
So we were playing roller hockey down at Lesh Elementary School, and I was supposed to. I had my sole responsibility was walking the family dog. So, of course, we get a game together down at Lesh Elementary School, and we had to skate there because we weren't driving yet, and that's about a mile away. So we're playing, and we're playing. It's just at the beginning of aluminum hockey sticks, where the wood blade meets the shaft of the aluminum. The kid in front of me got hit, and he fell backwards, and the shaft of his stick ripped my lip off my face. So took my lip, because I'm playing hockey. I'm not going home. I'm staying until we win. I took my lip, and we had a cooler, and I put it in the cooler, and I stayed and played. So I drive home. My dad taught.
You didn't drive yet.
I'm sorry, I skated home. My bad. I skated home.
A form of
I
driving.
skated down Renard Street. I remember skating
Wait,
down
you had to
Renard
go up
Street.
the hill?
I had to go up and down the hills on Renard Street.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
that was like terrifying going up and down those hills on Renard Street. And I'm coming around the corner, and my dad's coming around the corner with the dog. Now he's got to go teach. He taught at the High School of Engineering and Science at that time at 17th and Norris. He would come home, drop whatever his stuff was, have a sandwich, pick up his next set of books, and then go teach at West Philly at night.
Wow.
He's taught night school at West Philly. So I'm coming around the corner, and now he's got to walk the dog. I'm coming around the corner. He's coming around the corner with the dog, and the steam is coming out of his ears. So I skate up to him, my lips in my hand. He looks at me. I didn't say a word. He looks at me. He goes, "That wouldn't have happened if you would have been home an hour ago. Now, you waited this long? Stick it in the freezer. Wait for Mom to get home from work, because you're making me late for work."
That's how you raise a man. That's how you raise a man.
So I mean, you know, if you think my kid was going to be raised any different than that, no. Like, you know, that's the example that was set.
I remember one day, you know, I have 3 daughters, so 2 are 23 and 1 is 18 now. And I remember one day, Gabi and Sophia got into a fight. And so my wife, Steph, and I, and our other daughter, Lauren, are standing there, and Gabi and Sophia are going at it like hockey players. They got the shirt over the way, and we're cracking up.
Let them go.
We just
let 'em
they
go.
let it all out. They let the steam out, and 10 minutes later, it's like there was no fight.
Right.
So those are lessons. I grew up in the streets. I'm a street urchin. I grew up. I mean, I was such a bad kid. No camp in Israel, no summer camp in Israel would accept me. My reputation. I had a police record by the time I was 8. And my friend too. We've been friends 53 years now. He's a civil engineer. But street justice. You're dumb. The big kid like him gets you in a headlock. What are you gonna do? You take a stone off the ground and you introduce it to his face. And the next day you're friends again. But
Yeah,
if
but
the
nobody does
parents
that
get
today.
involved, then it becomes a whole different fucking,
Right.
you know.
They have to learn how to
Yeah,
just do it on their own.
there's a
Dude.
reason we're
So-
wired like that.
So I parent, to parenting. Yeah, I go to pick Sam up at preschool, and he's already taking karate. He's already at Sensei David's. You know, he's been there for a couple years already. He's 5 years old, and it's summertime. He's got a bite mark on his shoulder. I said, "What happened to you?" He goes, "Joey bit me, and then he punched me."
Oh.
I said, "Well, why didn't you hit him back?" He goes, "Because Sister Mary will put me in timeout." I said, "Screech!" I said, "Forget Sister Mary."
That's right.
I said, "Next time Joey hits you," I said, "you hit him back and don't stop hitting him until Sister Mary has to pull you off."
Yep.
So I go to
Yeah.
pick him up the next day. He's standing in the corner by puppies, and there's a note. There's a note in the puppy that he got into it. He got into it. They said with another child. Of course, I knew who it was.
Yeah.
And he put him in a chokehold, and refused. They capitalized and underlined refused to let go after several commands. So I take him out to read his water ice. So the next day I go to I drop him off. I go to pick him up. Okay, he comes bouncing out of the daycare. I said, "How was your day?" He goes, "I had a great day." I said, "Yeah, what happened?" He goes, "Joey and I are friends now. He doesn't hit me anymore. He gives me hugs." I said, "I'll bet he does."
And that's what I was told when I was younger by my uncle, because I grew up with a single mother. You know what I mean? My uncle said, if you have a bully, if you believe you have a bully, because bully is a part of the mind, you fight him every day. Every time you see him, it's on sight. You could be walking, no, it's time to fight. If he's bullying you, because one day he's going to get tired of you fighting, and he's going to leave you alone. And that's what I took when I was younger.
Yeah.
You know, I had a bully. Every day he used to pound on me, you know what I'm saying? And then my uncle's like,
In Philly?
Yeah, in Philly. I was like, my uncle's like, well, get your ass in there.
That's right.
And start fighting him. He's like, but he's big. Punch him in his fucking face. Sorry.
Dude,
Are you kidding me?
Oh, I didn't-
Did you hear how I speak?
He's like, you ball up your fist and put it in his
Defunded,
fucking
right?
suck hole
Yep.
every day. And every day I saw him, I jumped on him like a little holler monkey and just started wailing on his head. You know what I mean? I see him from the back coming, get on a boom, right? Going in, and then he was, and I swear, no lie, every day after like a week, you would see him walking around like this. You know what I mean? You see him like, you know, but that ended it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That ended it.
You see, and we don't raise children.
Same
well,
thing.
We,
Yeah.
Well,
Children aren't raised like that today.
Same thing with me. I mean, I had I grew up in a neighborhood that went from blue collar white,
In Philly?
yeah,
Where?
to like in Albany, to like ethnically diverse, but it went black for a while,
It did.
and I would get this shit kicked out of me for being white all the time, from like first grade to like sixth grade, and because of the stereotypes. You guys have money. I'm like, I live right next to you. Like, if we had money, why would I live in the same shitty neighborhood as you? You know what I mean? Like, and I remember there was one kid, and I tried all the tree hugging shit. Like I tried, negotiating with him. We tried bringing him over. I had the Nintendo. We're trying to play Nintendo, and he's very nice then, but he would just bully me all the time until my mom and dad were like, "Yo, there's only one option left. You got to go in there, win or lose." My mom's like, "You got to go in there, win or lose, and just fight like you've never fought." And I was nervous, and I got hit, and I was like, "Oh, that doesn't hurt that bad."
Right.
And I fought, and I did lose because it's my first fight ever. never mess with me again.
Right.
We went to the teachers could give a shit.
Yep.
They don't want to get involved. They don't want to kick anybody out, which is why I never understand it, because that's the first thing they'll tell a kid. Well, you should tell us, but we tell you, you do nothing. You do nothing. You know?
Because the teachers were wise back then.
Yeah.
And the teachers of today are not cut from the same cloth.
Yeah.
They're the programmed morons.
Yeah.
Hey, you go to college now. One of the easiest degrees to get is a teaching degree. All the cute girls go to get a teaching degree, and then they hang out in front of the law school and medical school in miniskirts.
And that, well, we hit sexism, so we're definitely off there.
Or they become nurses.
Yeah, we're
Well,
getting
they could.
defunded.
The pretty ones don't. They just wait for the guy to. Well, that used to be. I don't know about today because they're all liberated. But
Dude, you're killing me because that was my plan for my daughter. That was it, to
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
buy her
yeah.
dress.
Plan for all three
I was
of
gonna-
my
I was gonna buy her.
daughters.
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
gonna buy her
she's too
dress.
big.
I was gonna get high heels, saw 3/4 of the way through one of the heels, and tell her to go to Penn Law School, wait outside, and just fall. She'll be getting her.
and a
she'll be
very,
getting,
very short miniskirt.
she'll be getting her newspaper off heated driveways the rest of her life.
That kid is purely intelligent.
You know, I heard, I don't remember whose show it was. Maybe Ruben on the internet or something. But it was a woman our age, like she was in our generation, maybe, so we're 55, she was like 57. And she called in and she said, I threw my life away. And the guy's like, what? I threw my life away. I listened to my professors. I was a straight A student. I'm a CEO today. She says, I come home to 7 cats. I have no children.
Oh, yes.
I'm lonely. But I bought into the system. So that's an extreme view. And you know what? If you've been walking this earth a little bit of time and God gave you a little bit of wisdom, anytime you have a conversation with a human being and they're at an extreme, either they're 100% right or they're completely ignorant. Because, you know, the middle road always ends up to be the more balanced road, you know? The teachers are teaching you, but your parents should have instilled some kind of system in you to understand that that is school, this is a family, and then there's the rest of your life, 80 years out in the big world.
Right.
But how many women like that are there in the world?
A lot, especially in this country,
Dude,
Western society.
when we look at our classmates, I mean, you know from looking at social media how many of them are fat and slovenly, out of shape, single, like,
Right.
you know, still, and
But accept me the way I am. You have to accept me the way I am.
You need to be 6 foot and make money.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean-
And you better have a six-pack.
Yeah,
You have six figures.
No, she's not only asking you to accept her the way you are, but she wants you to be a certain way. That's,
that's what he was
more
just
of it.
saying. Yeah, that's
You
what he was
can't
saying.
be toxic masculinity, dude, with like that. That
the
makes me feel
beard
uncomfortable.
and
Yeah.
damn you.
And then what? You were a soldier and you were this.
shave
you
that
probably-
beard now.
Yeah.
You want to see his face?
And that's all. Look, every country in the world has a duty to social engineer its society. Some countries have it easier because they're more established societies, like European society, but they also have a pitfall. The more established society is, the less flexible it is. So it's not going to accept somebody of a lower birth becoming somebody up there, you see? Meaning, lower birth meaning that your parents were nobody and now you're a fucking genius and you're doing all these things, but your upward mobility is going to run into a definite ceiling, and we don't care how smart you are, how rich you are, and what you have to contribute. So those are the old societies, you know? That includes Europe, that includes Africa for the most part in its tribalism, right? Because the Europeans walked in and they said, oh no, that looks like a good place to draw a line. Meanwhile, this tribe's been there for like 10,000 years,
Right.
and they have to like now migrate
Right.
here and these migrate there, and now we see the Houthis and the Tutsis
The
killing
Tutsis
each
killing each
other,
other, yeah.
and all this. I mean,
Yeah, I have a
You know.
friend. I have a friend, my partner. He's
Yeah.
from Guinea.
yeah,
He's over here from Guinea by way of France. You
Yeah.
know, so he speaks French
Yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
like that. And he was
'Cause it
telling
was
me
a
about
French
this.
colony.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he was telling me, I was like, what's going on in your country? He was like, well, my people, I forget the name of it. I'm sorry, and we have the money, but the other half of the country has the guns.
yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so you need money to buy guns. And I'm talking to him, I'm like, because I'm looking at it from an American outsider, an outsider view.
Strictly business.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, okay, if you have money and these people have guns, who's supplying the guns if they don't have money?
Who's paying for them?
Right. So you need to sit there and follow the money, follow the money. But these are your people. These are your people.
But where's the animus?
Right. You're supposed to come together, you know what I mean, as a country, dude.
Right.
But when they come here, you know, not all Africans that come here are like this, but then they look at us, Foundation Black America, as another tribe to war against.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, it continues because there are lines of demarcation always.
Right. And I was like, well, you have a whole country, homie, like, because we get into deep conversations in the middle of the night between runs, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, you have a whole country. Why can't you just come together? Because you already know you are a French satellite. They still have to, what is it called? It's not the French
Code
mark. It's like
Napoleon?
the money. They have
French francs.
Guinea franc or something like that,
Okay.
because they can't use their own money.
Because it's
you know?
worthless.
Right. So I was like, you know what the problem is. Why don't y'all all get on the same?
The problem is that Africa, if you look at it traditionally, is a tribal society.
Yes, it is.
And so when you take a tribal society that has its own rules and you juxtapose European perspectives on governmental structure, it doesn't fit.
It doesn't.
Okay. So the French came there and they said, who are the tribal leaders? And they said, these guys. Okay, well, your family and you are going to stay in power, only we're going to send your children to Paris. We're going to program them the way we want them to be. And then you're going to continue your job, but in a more modern sense, meaning modern economic sense and sense of control.
Yes.
And so now you've created a class or caste that has the backing of the Europeans. They have the money of the Europeans. And then you have the other side that is maybe not as well educated, but they're funded by, well, you name it, the communists, the Chinese, there's no shortfall. And why are they fighting? Because Guinea has natural resources of sorts.
Yeah, and that's what I told them. They want you to kill each other so they can come in and scoop up the resources, dude.
All
You know,
right, gentlemen, I think we're going to wrap this up. But before we wrap it up,
Fucking white people, am I right?
I know, I'm making a move here. All right, Luigi. Is he going to be guilty? Is he going to be
No,
found guilty
probably
in due
not.
time or not?
It's going to be a minimum sentence, if anything.
Murder one. Murder one meaning it's premeditated.
What it should be.
yes, murder.
Well, I'm not saying what it. I'm not asking your opinion what it should be.
He's guilty.
I'm asking, is he
He's
going to
guilty.
be found guilty by jury of his peers? Is he going to be found guilty?
Barring insanity, because I did hear talk about him.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I heard that he used. Well, this is conjecture, but there's possibility of like some kind of mind-altering drugs that were used, and then you can make the argument that he wasn't in his right mind or he's not in his right mind. But still,
I heard
he's
something.
found guilty, and he should be in a facility, whether it's a jail or an institution.
You think he's going to be in an institution?
Well,
He's
might-
going to be in some
He's
facility.
insane because
He's going to be housed somewhere.
They had the audio footage of him. We actually have it.
All right.
I think he's going to be found guilty, but it's going to be a reduced sentence. You know, he's going to be in Club Fed, you know,
Yeah.
in a nice little cushy place with the matching jumpsuits.
He has a jury. I mean, if it's just straight without a jury, he would go. But it's going to be a jury of his peers. And the way social media is going,
Yeah.
he's fucking Robin Hood.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I
He's got the
just
likes. He's got
can't
the
see.
likes.
I just can't see him doing time.
So if he does, it's going to be minimal.
Minimum, yeah. It's going to
Well,
be
what's
Worse than
minimum
his-
on murder one? Premeditated murder.
Well,
That's
he
if
probably
he
won't
even
get
gets
murder one.
manslaughter or something like
Second
that.
degree or
No,
third.
it can't be
yeah.
manslaughter. It's murder because
It's
manslaughter is
premeditated.
like vehicular. You know, it's
Yeah.
like there's no intention. Here, there's like
There's clear
obvious
intention, yeah,
Not only,
yeah.
but he wrote stuff on the shell casings. He's overt. So I mean, there's
yeah,
as
yeah.
much
So
as
he'll
Yeah,
get
it was
crazy and
meticulously planned.
institutionalized.
provided he's the right guy. Because I mean, I don't know if they've proven that he's the one.
Yeah, yeah.
But let's say he's the
Allegedly.
one.
Allegedly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's allegedly the one. But let's say if he's the one, I'll tell you this: that with all the evidence that they've found so far, if he's not going to jail, then we have a social issue.
Oh, well, we do have a social issue. You
We have a
really-
big
really-
social. Well, yeah,
big
we have.
social issue.
Like
Yeah,
if
we just
you-
spent 2 hours
Well,
talking
wait a
about
minute.
social
That's
issues.
not true because Penny, the guy, the train
subway.
guy, the subway guy. Well,
What is
That's
it?
my numbers.
Oh.
How
Yeah.
do I quiet this thing?
Oh, yeah.
So Penny was found not guilty.
Yes.
Right. Now the charges against him. I think what was the one that they dropped? They dropped the manslaughter. Or did
They
they
dropped the biggest one. It was like a
Whatever
second
the
degree
big-
or something like
right,
that.
Right. They
Yeah.
dropped that, and then so here he is, Penny, being found not guilty of what everyone, well, the jury was hung and all this, but I don't know. I think that by the time the trial comes up, because the trial is probably not going to happen for another like 9-10 months, I think that by then there might be a different paradigm that might be coming in. So even under today's light, I don't know if he'll be found innocent
Yeah.
based on the Penny.
But there's
Penny
some
thing.
people. It's really people on both sides of the fence. From what you're saying, like
But
I know
the court's not going to allow for that
But,
question.
do you, but, and I'm asking all y'all three, do you believe that Penny was guilty for killing that man on the subway? Do you believe he was guilty? I'll tell you my opinion.
Well, so you mean manslaughter? Did the man die as a consequence of Penny's actions?
Of
Is
the
that-
choke-
is
the
that-
chokehold.
Right.
You know
Did
what I
he
mean?
die as a consequence? I don't know, because I think that they were talking also that he was alive when he got to the hospital, but there may have been drugs involved. I don't know, and I didn't really drill down into it, but he may have either had a condition or drugs or both.
He was a psych mental patient, and I've run into those people every day. You can't go up to someone who is a psych issue, and he wasn't. And eyewitness says he was just having an episode. He wasn't hurting anybody. He was just, flailing, stuff like that. And he.
Oh,
came
so
up-
he wasn't threatening people?
No, he
at the
wasn't
time?
threatening. He was just having and you'll see people jumping around.
Yeah.
And
It's
saying-
New York. It's normal.
Yeah, it's normal. That's a show, So, but he came up and choked him out, and he was a Marine. So isn't it levels of force or whatever you're supposed to know?
Well, he's held to a different standard.
Yeah,
it's rules of engagement are different. I mean, like Marines are not teaching them. I don't know. I'm not a Marine.
No,
to be
what
honest with you,
he's
but some
asking,
do.
no, the question he's asking is, if you're a trained individual, are you held to a different standard than an untrained civilian?
Well, they would expect that you would have discipline
Right.
in order not to do something.
That's your question, right?
yeah. And do y'all believe that he was innocent of? Do you think he was guilty for killing that man in the chokehold? Because,
I don't know enough to speak about it.
Chokehold are
I don't know
difficult,
enough to speak about it either.
especially in an action situation. I mean, if you're doing a chokehold, I mean, from martial arts, it takes very few seconds for a blood choke
Right.
to stop that blood from going to the brain, for them to drop, and only a couple more to damage, and only a few more after that to kill.
Yes.
How you're supposed to tell is when they go limp.
Yes.
If he's not paying attention to when they go limp,
Or could you
then-
choke somebody to a point where you create damage so that
If you do
even
it
when
wrong,
you let
yeah.
go, the
Yeah.
person would still have...
because you're cutting the blood off from
Yeah.
the brain.
So could you crush
hitting
an
it too
artery
hard.
or
Closing the
something?
carotids.
Yeah, you can definitely crush an artery.
and if he has a embolism in there, you can break that off and it goes.
Okay, so
straight.
there you go. So yeah, so I mean, traditionally speaking, if you're a trained individual, you're just held to a different standard. But
Right.
but then, as Bill articulated, what was his training? Was he a cook, or was he a Marine Scout sniper that was very highly trained? But
Well, you have say, Paul,
And-
right?
Oh, yeah,
I was
Paul.
calm, right? Paul's training was different as an infantryman than me.
And at the end of the day, nobody sitting at this table was there.
yeah, I don't.
At
that's
the end
why
of
I
the
say I
day,
don't know.
nobody at this table was there on that subway and was subject to whatever went on there.
And nobody saw video, because I'm sure they have cameras, but I didn't see any video of it.
Yeah.
And
I
then,
saw
you need to know what people said. So the answer to your question is, the jury found him not guilty, but I can't speak on it. And,
All right.
All right, gentlemen.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Thank you.
Until the next time.
Till the next time.